Greetings, fellow Amblamites. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the 5th season of Spielberg Month. Since Steven Spielberg doesn't do audio commentary on his own work, we thought we'd do it for him. After all he's done for us, it's the least we could do for him. Since we're getting near the end of Spielberg's vast catalog and want to keep the party going as long as we can, this month features a duo of modern Spielberg projects neither of us have seen before, as well as a tribute to one of the man's longtime oh my god, I'm reading the wrong intro.
Yeah.
Oh god. Wow.
Well, okay, we're off to a good start.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Do you want me to do it over?
Yes, please.
Okay, take 2, everybody, and this is why I wish we could pre-record these, among other reasons. That's fun. All right, just to be sure, Dragon, let's see. It's
one that says 2021, Tiki.
Okay. Greetings, fellow Amblamites. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the 6th season of Spielberg Month. 6, not 5, 6. Since Steven Spielberg doesn't do audio commentary on his own work, we thought we'd do it for him. After all he's done for us, it's the least we can do for him. Since we're getting near the end of Spielberg's vast catalog and want to keep the party going as long as we can, this month features a duo of Spielberg historical epics and a couple tributes along the way. So let us board La Amistad and sail into a sea of history as gripping as Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln. Let's roll film on Spielberg and ride our bikes to the Green Planet. It's time for another season of Spielberg Month. All right, we don't have time. All right. We're good.
Burn through our ET.
We need to rush into this one, Dragon.
Hey, burn through our ET time, thanks.
Pretty much. All right, Dragon, there's no easy way around this. Amistad, I mean, I don't know how you feel. I really, really liked it. I mean, I think it's a gem, but it's a hard watch, man. I mean, Act 2 in this movie is the most compelling act in the movie, but it's also by far the most harrowing and gripping and hard to watch. And I honestly think there's a couple moments in here that are like on par with Schindler's List as far as like how disturbing it is in terms of like how fucked up humanity can be. But by the same token, Dragon, I mean, this is just a fantastic ensemble. I mean, just look at this cast, Dragon. Look at it. We got Hopkins. We got McConaughey. We got Djimon Hounsou. We got, I'm sure the tip of the iceberg, right? I'm missing people. Who else?
Like Morgan Freeman?
We got Morgan Freeman.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
We got a lot of MCU players in this.
We do. Oddly enough, we have a lot of MCU players in this one.
Funny how that works. I think Kevin Feige loves this movie, too. That's what I like to think.
So, Dragon, like I said, I quite enjoyed this. I thought this was damn harrowing. I mean, it's pretty much like a historical courtroom drama, but, it's funny. I have not rewatched Lincoln since it was in theaters. I know you have recently, but I remember Lincoln being pretty gripping in its own right from just from a personal point of view, from a deeply intimate point of view, as far as like, oh man, honest to God, Dragon, I still will maintain that I think the most compelling stuff about Lincoln is just his marriage issues in that movie. Like I could just watch Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln struggling with marriage issues all day. I'm not even being facetious about that. But here it's just like it's an epic, man. It's like a courtroom drama tied into this just like larger than life, like almost like 12 Years a Slave. Got another MCU connection, by the way. Ejiofor.
Yep, Ejiofor, kind of
right.
Yep, little precursor to 12 years.
It's trippy, but
oh yeah.
Dragon, this really is. I mean, I think the first act and the third act are, they're good in their own right. I mean, I really feel like it's kind of funny because I feel like Anthony Hopkins, his monologue in this movie is almost kind of like the reverse of the Jack Nicholson "A Few Good Men" monologue, where it's like it's a monologue so epic that it just concludes the movie in a certain way. But instead of Jack Nicholson's being like super slimy and evil, this one is just like, fuck yeah, man, you say it, you say it, Hopkins. And of course, Dragon, this is also tying into another Hopkins movie that we're going to be getting into quite soon. So that's a fun kind of tie-in. So let's not. I'm sorry. Your thoughts, Dragon.
Yeah, I had thoughts too. Yeah, and plus, a little smidgen of stuff. Okay, so yeah, this is I feel this is a voyage. This is a voyage of a Spielberg film. I think ultimately, I'm a little more captivated by the performance than I am the whole, but I respect the crap out of it. I do. It's a good movie. This is an underrated and important film that should be used in history classes. It really should be. I don't really
think this is one of the most harrowing, like, slavery films I've ever seen.
Agreed, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't want to sound reductive here. I don't know if this is reductive or not. It might be a reductive comparison to say it's Schindler's List with slaves, but like Schindler's List,
it's more complicated than that. But it has elements of it for sure.
And that's my point. Is that the thing that would kind of lend credence to that comparison is that there are powerful and hard to watch historically accurate moments in this film that are so palpable. And again, only Spielberg could really bring to life as harrowing as they are. And yeah, that's the thing. Ultimately, this is a forgotten story and a forgotten Spielberg film, and it's about time we gave it some talking about.
All right, so Dragon, let's get some background.
All right, let me give you the essentials of the background here. So this is the baby of producers. There's a producer named Debbie Allen, and it was her 14-year mission. After reading essentially these two volumes of essays about Amistad, about the Amistad event, to adapt it into a film. Now, here's the fun fact, the tragic fact about Amistad. So,
I'm sorry.
So at the time, like around the time before this movie was made, Amistad apparently was like Tulsa 28 or the Black Wall Street that we're now privy to thanks to stuff like the HBO Watchmen. It was one of the forgotten Black history moments, and no one talked about the Amistad. No one knew. Not a lot of people knew about it. It was not like a very.
I'm not surprised. It's a pretty obscure subject. Yeah,
exactly. So before this movie, it was really like there was like a book released 10 years ago. But that's what I'm saying. Outside of that book and these essays, not much. It was kind of lost to history, and the general audience would have no idea what this event was. So after Schindler's List, this convinced Debbie Allen that Spielberg was absolutely the man for the job. Now, the thing about Spielberg, as we are tracking his films through our little commentary kind of excursion, Spielberg kind of had a lull between 1993 and 97. In between that, I want to say I believe that was when we had all the.
Yeah, let's track that.
So here's the thing. So it's you won't believe how awesome this is. So in 93 and 97, we have a very reflective period in that 1993.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Yes. In 93, you have, of course, he's balancing two movies at the same time to kind of balance out kind of like the action, kind of the horror of history, where you have Jurassic Park and you have Schindler's List. That's 93. Big year for Spielberg.
One of the biggest 1-2 punches of any director ever, if not the single biggest.
Absolutely. So you go there. There's a period in between, if I recall correctly. In that period, that's when we have like the Warner Brothers and the Amblin stuff.
I'm sure that's when we have Hook, right?
No, that's what I'm saying to you. There's nothing in between 93 and 97 film wise. Now, I believe on TV, that's when he's doing Animaniacs and everything in between, like those.
Well, you know what? He's handing out memos, Dragon. He's busy.
He is. That's what I'm saying. So basically, Spielberg's doing a lot of producing along this time and doing some stuff in the animation field. Now, 97 rolls around. I want to say Schindler's just took a lot out of him because God, of course, it's going to take a lot out of him. What he put into that movie, how can it not? So 97 rolls around. He does The Lost World and Amistad.
That's funny.
Right? Yet another pairing, again, of like a 1-2 punch. I got a very heavy historical film. I got to balance it out with the old Jurassic stomping grounds. And I'm sure there was some pressure of like, they want me to do a sequel. I might as well do something while I'm doing this Amistad
film. One for us, one for you, Steven.
Yep. All right, so Spielberg, he almost made he almost waited on this film, but there was because it was so tough to get your leading actor because leading actor is very pivotal. Your Cinque. Now Cinque,
Oh man, and I mean, talk about a towering performance. Like this is, I mean, I've admired Jimon Hansu for a long time, man, but this is like the best I've ever seen him.
absolutely. So he was the deciding factor for like doing the movie in '97 because he was
Mhm.
thinking about like I want to do the movie, but I don't know if I'm going to be ready or prepared to do it, especially if I can't get the right guy in the lead part for this because he's going to have to convey a whole lot. I mean, there's obviously the whole language barrier thing. We got like a whole there's a lot to convey with this guy, and he reached out to the biggies and they passed. He went to Denzel Washington, he passed. He went to Cuba Gooding Jr., he also passed.
Oh
These
my
are huge
god.
names at that time, and if they're passing, oh my god, I don't know if I can
Cuba,
do it.
I'm sorry, with all due respect to Cuba Gooding Jr., man, that guy does not have the chops to pull something like this off.
I agree. He was. I've seen him in some great stuff, but yeah, he
Yeah,
would not.
yeah.
He does. By the way, just fun fact: he does really regret passing on this movie, though, seeing how
Does
good it
he?
turned
That's
out.
funny.
All right. Anyway, so then he discovered. I don't know how new Hansu's career was at this point because he was like 7 years into the acting
I
game at
mean,
this point.
Hansu, man, he's one of those actors where it's like I feel like he still feels like an up and comer. You know, it's weird.
John Hansu, I don't want to belabor too much about Hansu here, but let's just say Hansu has a very interesting backstory. He was, he went to school, and before he graduated, he kind of like decided to kind of go to Paris, and he like, he just he kind of roamed the streets for a long time, and he kind of became, I want to say, he became homeless for a little bit, and he became then he just kind of discovered on the streets. He became a model, and that transferred into being an
Oh
actor.
wow,
And 7 years later, he gets this movie.
that's
I don't know if
crazy.
this was the. I don't think this was the very first film he did, but it was. It was. I think probably the biggest film he had done up to
Oh
that
yeah,
point.
up until that point, yeah, I'm
That's a
sure.
guess, mind you. Okay, so the writer was the guy who went on to do Gladiator, David Franzoni. And in terms of, there was kind of a light adaptation going on here. Again, they were pretty much pulling from the essays as well as the only book really written on Amistad called Mutiny on the Amistad. They had an African scholar, Dr. Arthur Abram, who he was educating them on the whole the Mende tribe and just make sure they got all their P's and Q's right on that. This is the fourth historical film Spielberg had done up to this point. Before the rest, before we go, we've kind of covered all the rest.
Yeah, yeah.
And lastly, the critics. So the critics, they liked this, just not as much as Schindler's List, but
Well,
they were
it's
warm
a
to this.
tough act to follow, my dude. Just come
That's
on
that's
now.
that's what I'm saying. So just so yeah, in
that's
terms
just
of like
that's just not fair, man.
I know that's what I'm saying. So if anyone has any harsh things to say about us, I mean, come on, guys, it's following Schindler's List. I mean, I don't think you need much more of a
I mean, that's
comparison
just
beyond that,
silly.
right? I mean, the piece of, yeah, exactly. How do you
Like
top
it's
Schindler's
like two
List?
different genres practically. It's like this is way more of a courtroom drama than anything else, you know?
Exactly. And plus, it's hard to after the courtroom drama has been done so many times, it's hard to kind of shake it up. But still, it's
Oh
like it's
man.
very. Anyways, that's all I got in terms of the history. So I think we're good. Okay, so folks, we're going to let me cue up the Lethal Weapon here, but also again, folks, we're doing a commentary because Spielberg, as you saw by the fancy intro, Spielberg doesn't do commentaries. We're going to try to fix that. So we're doing a commentary here, but you can listen to it as a podcast. It's going to go really linearly. If you'd like to link
I
it
mean,
up,
I
go.
honestly, Dragon, like it's hard to it's hard like this is one you're gonna have to rent. So it's like if you're interested in this movie, I honestly might recommend you just listening to this podcast and we'll try and like sell you on the movie, you know, because like I'm sure this is one of the more obscure ones we've done for Spielberg month. But we're
Certainly.
gonna try and keep it as conversational as we can.
The only one more obscure as always.
Oh my god. Oh god, that's
Anyway, so again, folks, so we're gonna when Tiki's gonna count up, and when he says
yep,
go, when he
yep.
says it, not me, when he says go, we're gonna hit the play button if you want to follow along, if you're renting it somewhere, or if you somehow have a copy of it on DVD, or if you're lucky enough to be watching this in the past somehow, having some time travel, you can watch it on HBO Max. Yeah, I'm calling you out, HBO Max, who oddly enough, actually HBO was originally supposed to do this movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I had to rent this twice, folks. Once for Dragon and once for me on different accounts.
Yeah, so yeah, we're peeved about that, folks, but it's what
I
it
mean, it
is. All
was
right.
only $6, and you know it's all good. But hey, that's what a Patreon's going to be for when we actually get a Patreon.
Yeah,
Just-
yeah, yeah. We're still anyway. Okay, so All right.
All right,
So yeah, we got it. Yeah, so we got it all queued up. So Tiki, just when you give the signal.
let's do it. Amistad in one, two, three, go.
Yeah. So right off the bat, Tiki, fun fact: this was the first DreamWorks film that Spielberg did.
No shit, really.
Yeah, the live action division is up and running in '97. So this
Uh
is the
huh.
first one that he helmed. Yeah, this is his first DreamWorks
I mean,
film.
up until like I feel like he had like a long stream of working with DreamWorks in the 2000s, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and then you have a year later we have Ants with the DreamWorks Animation division.
Oh
So
my
yeah, it's
god.
very '97. It's the beginning. Okay, so the first shot we got to talk about here, I think one of the most impressive things in the movie, Janusz Kaminski, Spielberg's guy, his big cinematographer, the man lighting extraordinaire is this man, especially. I think the money shot of the film is this opening shot of we have a black man, we have a black man who is one with the ship, essentially, as we have this lighting that basically
Uh
blends a
huh.
black man's face into his surroundings as he's like basically digging away for a method of freedom. I just love you see the desperation moving in the eyes. It's like you're thinking you're looking at a background for a second, but my God, it's a man. It's a human man.
What I love about this opening, as far as like the context of the rest of the movie, is in act two is basically like for a good part of act two is just kind of an extended flashback to to kind of like before and after this event. But like this kind of like puts us in his head right away of like, we can kind of fill in the blanks of what he's gone through up until this point. But then, my God, when you go back and see it, after what we see in Act Two, that it really just cements the desperation and everything this guy has gone through just to get here.
Yeah, essentially what we're seeing is the crime without the context, and the context is
Mm-hmm.
going to be the tragedy that absolutely justifies everything that happens here. And basically, I'm not saying that what happens here, you can already fill in the blanks of, okay, there's certainly knowing what we know is a moral justification here, but just look, taking it, it's a scary sequence, and we're like, what brought
I
about
would
this
hope
scary
that
sequence?
everyone watching this thing today, like,
Yeah,
would be like, yeah, this is absolutely like. I would
yeah.
hope there's no moral ambiguity
That's what
during
I'm
this.
saying. I'd be scared if there were any moral ambiguity. But
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I
yeah.
like that. Yeah, again, I love that the trial itself is not like a simple murder trial. It's all about prophecy.
Uh-huh.
So I like that. It's not really a question of like, oh, did he do it or not? It's no. We know he did. And that's what we're
Right,
showing
right,
up front.
right. Yeah.
There's no true like. It's not a question of like, was a crime committed? We know this for fact. Okay, that's not
The
an
question
arbitration.
is of the crime itself, like basically
Yes.
kind of like the legal lines of what makes it a crime or not.
Exactly. So of course the raging storm amidst the mutiny, and of course I love the big parallel of the movie is the man going up against a lion, killing it with a rock here, and of course the desperately digging for like a nail. The nail being the salvation. Obviously, there's a bit of a Christ metaphor in there, like the nail kind of
Oh, sure,
being
sure.
the salvation. Honestly, this whole sequence we open very strong on this movie.
Private Ryan comes a year later, right?
I believe so. Yeah, '98. Yeah, it
So
comes
it
next year.
is. I feel like there's some parallels here. I mean, of course, Private Ryan, like that's a whole like that thing just kind of like set a new standard as far as like cold opens go. But like I feel like there's a little bit of like DNA here where like we're starting off with like probably one of the most I mean, look at the blood here. It's like this is definitely, I mean, obviously we're going to get more into act two with some of the savagery that goes on, but this definitely is a harrowing way to start a movie. And I feel like it's a great choice for Spielberg, and I feel like it's a choice that Spielberg makes time and time again with his films. Like look at like, I mean, it's a far off comparison, but look at like, Jurassic Park or I don't know, I'm trying to think, like Jaws, of course. Time and time again, he'll do these like cold opens. Indiana Jones is an iconic example. He'll do these cold opens that really get us in, that really draw us in, give us an adrenaline rush. And then he'll kind of like layer back the situation in, throughout the rest of the first act.
Yeah, and of course, like right here, what we're having here with all this violence, very effectively, is it's brutal yet cathartic kind of justice for the
Mm-hmm.
slaves. That's really what's going on here. And I love there's a theme of the film that I feel was really well captured in the opening here. Is that if we treat people like savages, they're going to act
I
like
love that shot of the
savages.
sword going through the floorboards, by the way.
I know it's great. You never think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I like that. The message of one of the themes of the film being, if we treat, it's like treat people the way you want to be treated. In that case, if you treat them like
Absolutely.
savages and you hurt them like animals, they're gonna there's gonna be like a very savage cost to that. And again, it's going to lead to all this unpleasantness. It's terrible. And again, basically, Sinke here killing the I believe the ship captain, if not because I know we have the owners on the ship as well who survived. But Sinke here is just killing. Again, he's killing the lion again symbolically here, and again the nail being what makes this possible. I love the ironic beat here. Now, Tiki, I don't know if you know this, Amistad translates the friendship, so the friendship. It's so bitterly ironic.
That is funny. But it also, I feel like it fits with the themes of the film, though.
Yeah. Exactly. So friendship should absolutely be possible, but it is not. Sure. Okay, now let me talk about my problem with the movie though. So it's kind of in Act 1. I feel after that opening, we have a lot of there's a lull.
A lot of setup.
There's a lot of setup and there's a lot of lull, and I don't necessarily think it's bad, but I just feel. Let me tell you, for example. I think the arbitrary subtitles after the opening I think it's a bit of a problem. Now, I don't necessarily think it kills the movie because I think they're going for is, okay, we can pick up what's going on here. Again, we don't really have any Americans that we wouldn't have to have the subtitles for necessarily, but in a bit like this, we're about to have. Okay, so Sinke's going to basically ask the former captors to take them back to Africa. I think we need some subtitles to make that clear.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I'm not bothered by that is because, like, it's spelled out pretty clearly later on what went down and, their scheme. But, no, I hear you. I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. Like, I get
that. I think it works just not as well.
Obviously, it adds to the realism, and that's the choice, but,
it's just honestly, it's just when you think about it, it's less like you need the subtitles for the audience because they can pick on what's going on. It's more so like, what did we think was going to happen here? So you have two, I'm sure they can't understand each other in this scene anyway. Mm-hmm. So how exactly is this plan going to work at all? I don't know. And it just bothers me because later on the subtitles I think are used really effectively in the courtroom, where in the Act 1 we don't have any subtitles. And it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's more.
Like I said, it's a choice. It's a choice, and I feel like that is a very valid criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I get it though. I mean, I think I get it.
All right.
Of course, looking at the stars here, if I read this right, Sinke is looking up the stars, and he's kind of I don't know if he's like it's like a North Star thing. He's kind of realizing we're going in the wrong direction. These guys are setting us up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I read out of it.
And again, it also maybe helps cement that Sinke's smart, which is going to pay off by the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. Like, honestly, Dragon, I think there's a bit of a lull. Like, if there's any lull in pacing, I don't necessarily think it's with any of the stuff that's setting up the case. I honestly think it's this stuff.
I know, exactly, because I cannot deny the impactfulness of the opening. The opening is flawless, but it's just like...
I honestly think if we would have cut from the opening to the courtroom stuff, I feel like it would have been more impactful, just because we pretty much, like I said, we pretty much put the pieces together of what went down during the segment, during the courtroom stuff anyways, through exposition. So in a way, kind of makes like both of those exposition scenes kind of like redundant.
Yeah.
Spielberg. What are you thinking, Spielberg?
Like later on, what's going to happen is like we're going to be so we're going to this island, I guess, to get water just for the trip, and that's where things go south. It's like, do we really need that though?
Okay, I will say the presence of the slave fortress, Dragon, that's a terrific, like, horrifying real life set piece, Dragon. Like that, to me, it's like that is like the Jaws of the movie.
Well, look, I agree that it's a very impactful, kind of location. I don't know if it's the Jaws in the movie, though.
I think just the presence of it, just the lingering kind of like, I mean, it's maybe not the Jaws.
I mean, to be fair, Jaws is it's like comparing a stationary thing to Jaws. It doesn't. I don't know. It's a little. I don't know.
But you know what I mean. It's got such a presence.
It has a great payoff, and it is kind of the beast. It's kind of the ongoing engine of the beast. So in that
that's
respect,
what I'm saying.
It is somewhat Jaws-like, I guess. Sure.
All right.
Right. We have coming up once, I believe, I assume we're going to another. Oh yeah, we're going to another nighttime show because they have to show everyone partying. So when they're doing that, we're going to have the kind of the two ships crossing in the night, kind of trippy, heady moment where we have.
Oh yeah, that okay. You know what? Like, god damn it!
It's a memorable
tricky.
image, though. It really is.
Yeah, it's like honestly, keep the sequence for that shot alone. Honestly, it's like that shot is a great fucking shot. It really is. It's classic Spielberg.
I mean, that's the weird thing, Tiki, because again, this really is just a lot of setup that I don't think we truly need. But I like a lot of it though. Like for example, when we have we're swimming in the water, when he gets captured by the Navy, that's a good sequence, but it's not necessarily something we need though, because we know they got captured. Clearly, they got captured. We just jump cut to that.
It doesn't need. We don't need to take 20 minutes to have them get captured. That's a problem,
exactly.
Especially in a movie that's already 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know, but Spielberg likes his long run times, Dragon. We've kind of just learned to accept that at this point.
Yeah, he does.
Which obviously is kind of an inconvenience for us.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. Once we get to stuff like Dolan and stuff like Duel and Amblin and Sugarland Express, it won't be a problem.
Yeah, that'll be a refreshing change of pace.
It will.
It's back when he was young and hungry. I want more, and of course now we got more. But here's where we have the ships in the night here. Oh, by the way, just in general, with a lot of the even beyond just kind of the celebratory kind of thing they were doing earlier on, just in general, Debbie Allen, again, the producer, is really kind of the heart and soul of this project. Again, it was less like a Spielberg directed thing. It was just kind of brought to him, and he made it sing. She was highly involved. She worked on the choreography, all the movements of the Africans. And by the way, our whole cast here are actual Africans.
I'm not surprised.
And one of the Africans, actually, a descendant of Cinque, Samuel Pith, or whatever, P-E-E-H. That guy was one of Cinque's full. Cinque has a few different pronunciations of his name. If you look at it here, I don't know what your version has, but it's if you look at subtitles, C-I-Q-U-E. So
that's what I have. Yeah.
Anyway,
C-I-Q-U-E.
So in points, he's had a couple interpretations of the name over there. Anyway, so his descendants in this movie as one of the Africans. I can't pinpoint him exactly because there's 44 of them, but here we go. Here we have this really trippy kind of two boats in the night here, and just the high society and just kind of the low end of it right now. Just why do these guys get to live it up? I just love the tension here. Maybe they won't notice.
Right. Yeah. Oh God, honestly, it is one of the most memorable images in the movie for me, Dragon. I don't know. It is classic Spielberg suspense, I think. Really good.
Okay, so 6 weeks have passed. I wonder how long it does take to sail from Africa to I guess they were going to Cuba. Where are they going? I think they were going to Cuba. I'm not sure.
A long ride. Cuba sounds right. I'm not entirely sure.
I know Cuba factors into it later, but given the whole we go to Spain and there's a whole anyway. Mm-hmm. The point being, we're going along. Africa's a long ways away by boat, so I can imagine it take. Plus, we have a lot of turning around. We were going there, and we turned around during the mutiny, so it probably added time anyway to slice it.
It took a lot of time on those boats, Dragon.
I'm sure. Plus, you had no motor or anything, too. It's
right, yeah. That's one of the things I remember in history class that always kind of fascinated me was just the concept of how long, for example, this is going to sound kind of it's not that much of a tangent because it's Spielberg, it counts. American Tail, Dragon. It's we really feel the length of that voyage. You know what I mean?
That we do, yes.
Yeah.
And here we go. Here's the little detour onto land where, I assume they're replenishing and trying to snuff out where they are right now. Okay, well, we see a guy on a bike, so clearly that's not Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They can't possibly think they're in Africa. Just trying to, I don't know. I think they're just trying to refuel here, and then this happens. So it's always, that's the one thing. This is the thing without the subtitles that kind of throws me off. What are we doing on this little island?
Honestly,
here?
I hear you. I feel
I mean,
like
it's like the only gripe I have in the movie. So forget. I don't mean to linger on. I'm
no,
just
no,
saying
no.
it's not.
It's all good. I mean, I feel like what Spielberg's trying to go for with it is just like almost kind of like we're as disorientated as the characters are in some ways.
Right. And
But
then the Navy enters the fray.
but I mean, yeah, it does take a long amount of time to get to, since it is a courtroom drama first and foremost. I mean, that is the genre that I would classify this movie under first and foremost, is courtroom drama.
Basically, Act One at the top here, where they try and say, okay, so it's called Amistad for a reason, and here's why.
This isn't Act One though. That's the thing. It's like I don't think once we get through all this stuff, we still have to like set up McConaughey's character. We still have to set up Morgan Freeman's character. We have to set up the stakes of the trial. It's like there's a lot to pack into Act One, Dragon.
Oh yeah. Okay, so this to me this is what I'm saying. I like the impact of this image, though. It's a tragic idea of our lead character Sinke. It's like the idea of a slave making the choice between becoming basically between becoming like the poor victims we're going to see in Act Two, where you choose to jump ship, or your freedom being taken away from you, your freedom being denied if you're captured. So he's making the choice, like for a moment.
Right,
it's the idea of him swimming, trying to swim to freedom, but there's no chance. Like there's no horizon, there's nothing, and he has no choice. But again, when he sinks here, there's a choice: do you die like your brethren, or do you surrender your freedom? And it's a tough choice.
I mean, it's a memorable image. The lead character just kind of like accepting his fate and just drowning.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's contemplating it, man. It's like, well, I don't know. He's sinking awfully far. It's impactful for sure. And again, I'll tell you though, one of the really cool things in the movie is we have a story behind the costume design, the clothing. Where our guy here, the idea is when he was in Africa, he was given like a fancy, he was given cloth if they ever came across it. They gave him like a fancy kind of dress for the, a dressing for the bravery that he observed when he took out that lion. And we try to put him in clothing as much as we can in the movie, with few exceptions. So again, trying to convey that idea throughout the film is nice.
Yeah, I do think that it's a really cool kind of like cultural bit of costume design for sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And here we go to our very spacious prison. This is a good location. Now, let me tell you a story about this location. So what they did, it's kind of a perverse idea, but it's really cool. It's ironic. So the lighting and kind of the cinematography of the prison set, it's influenced by Spanish painter, Goya. And he had some really great. Basically, again, if you look at any of the Goya paintings, they're very much about kind of a prison. There's one called like the prison of something or other, and it's identical to this. And again, just the irony being just what our slave characters have incurred from the Spaniards in this movie, and knowing that hey, we're drawing inspiration from the Spaniards for this. It's kind of ironic. Also, Rick Carter's production design. Rick Carter worked on Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds, and War Horse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, this prison is very much like a step up from the conditions that they were in.
That it is. We're not shifting around and risking drowning every night, but it's still. And then this bit always me at the hand thing, just seeing like we're crushing poor Sinke's hand here. Mm-hmm. He's fighting a tooth and nail as much as he can to avoid being captured. It's sad.
Dragon, what's your timestamp?
My timestamp is 8. Well, it's about to be 19 minutes. Well, now it's like.
Don't know how this keeps happening. What's your timestamp overall? Let me ask you that.
Okay, 2 hours. Well, sorry, let me get to the end because the tracks as it goes forward. Okay, so 2 hours. I want to say 2 hours, 34 minutes, and 39 seconds. That's the overall 2 hours. 30.
Oh 30. God. Okay. Well, mine is 2 hours, 34 minutes, 42 seconds. Isn't that special? I think we're gonna be out of sync the whole damn time.
Oh, it's only like 3 seconds though, Tiki.
No. Right now, I'm at 1903. Right now, like
Oh,
1905.
okay. That's
Yeah,
I don't know how that happened.
I don't know either.
Okay, well, I'm on the Queen of Spain right now, so
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and
real quick, let me fill in the blank here. So we had a
sorry.
really great transition of Cinque in the cage, like shedding a tear to the queen, the doll of the Queen of Spain, which I thought was a really effective transition. And I kind of like that we play the Queen of Spain for laughs, and that she's the 11-year-old child who's just running, who's just causing all this trouble.
It's interesting with the Queen of Spain because it's like I really like the payoff with her, but I don't necessarily know if we need the cutaway storyline.
We don't really. All we need is to establish that okay, so it's an 11-year-old girl for the big speech at the end. That's all we need.
Right. So I feel like Anna Paquin at the time, like this was just coming off of oh God, what's that movie she did with Sam Neill? I don't
I can't tell. I know this is like before
something
X
about
Men.
something about the piano or something. The piano, I think that's what it is, the piano. But anyways, Dragon, are you at 2930 or 2030 yet? 2030.
I'm at 21.
You're at 21. Perfect. I'm just skipping around.
All right.
Let me know when you get to 2130.
All right, I'll let you know. It's going to be soon.
Okay.
All right.
We're going to do the best we can here, folks.
Martin Van Buren, not the most popular president for a variety of reasons.
No, not at all.
I got a story about that. We'll get there.
I think it's interesting that this... Go ahead.
Now.
Okay. I think it is interesting that this is like immediately pre-Lincoln.
Well, it's pre-Lincoln. I don't know. It's not not immediately, Tiki. It's 20,
not immediately. I know, but
it's
like it's very like I think it's interesting that it's like it's pre-Civil War though. Like immediately is the wrong word, but I think I feel like we've kind of got like an interesting duology on our hands with this year's selections.
You're right about that. Also, there are a few inaccuracies, but nothing I don't think you can pay voters for the excuse of story here. For example, apparently, and I had no idea about this, apparently 1840 presidents weren't allowed to campaign, like campaigning wasn't a thing back then.
Oh, really?
I mean, for what I read,
okay,
yeah.
Can I be a Hamilton geek about this for just a second?
I mean, but fine, just a second.
Okay, so in Hamilton, they make a big deal. Remember, they make a big deal out of Aaron Burr doing the campaigning in 1800.
Right.
Like that, like people like in the election of 1800, people think like, oh, Aaron Burr, and that's kind of why he doesn't become the vice president with Thomas Jefferson, is because he was openly campaigning against Thomas Jefferson.
I mean,
so it's interesting because it's
right.
It's like 40 years later, and that's still kind of like in flux a little bit. That's interesting, just historically.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right. So I want to talk about. Okay. So this scene right here, where they're walking through town. So this was a really emotional day on the set, by the way, because again, you have Africans who are they're essentially again, some of them have actual ancestors who are absolutely in this exact same position with Cinque's relative. And so they're all actually Africans, and they're actually wearing real chains during this, and they're walking through the street. It was a very emotional day.
Yeah, I mean, I bet. I mean, I don't want to keep comparing this to Schindler's List, but this does feel.
I think we should wait for that one scene before we have the Schindler's List comparison. You know the one scene.
No, but I know, but I mean, you know what I mean, though. This is still very much a dehumanizing moment.
You're right about that. You're absolutely, and of course, history kind of being replicated very eerily. Speaking of which, I do love a really effective moment for me was when they were walking through town. They had kind of, I mean, this is going to be, I don't know how couth it is to kind of use this for me to say this term, but it's kind of the Uncle Tom moment. It's kind of sort of the realization of he's where Damon Hansu's character is saying like they're looking to hopefully a friend in the black man who was riding the horse. He's the carriage man. And he's saying like, come on, brother, will you help us? And he says, he's not our brother. He's a white man. It's like, that's, oh man, just seeing the recognition there that early in time, that's kind of like haunting to me. Like, oh God, it was back then even our slave characters here are just kind of realizing, oh my God, even they can smell it right off the bat. Sad.
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. Hollibird here. So Hollibird, he passed away. We've seen him in a bunch of things. Of course, he was in the Lost World. He was kind of the knockoff of the Safari, like the hunter guy from Jurassic
Oh,
Park.
the knockoff Muldoon.
Yeah, the knockoff Muldoon.
God.
He was in James and the Giant Peach. He was the narrator and the guy with the crocodile.
Oh, really?
Things.
Oh, wow.
And also Mr. Fisher's father in Inception.
Oh man, that's a weirdly eclectic bunch of roles. Dragon.
Yep. And he was the bad guy in the town. He's all over the place. Man. He's awesome. Seriously, I do really like when people pass away.
This is a great role, though. This is a great role. This is a really slimy prosecuting attorney villain right here.
Yeah. So this scene is wonderfully crazy. I love that if Spielberg is going to do a courtroom drama, he's going to do the most insane courtroom drama ever, in which it's so not conventional, because we have all these lawyers just come up and basically it turns to a very kind of simple case to okay, multiple people want ownership of these guys.
Right. It basically turns into a battle for real estate.
Yeah, we have John Forsyth as kind of the state wanting the slaves that basically turn them over to the Queen of Spain. We have the Navy who want the ship and its property, which would be our 44 here. And then we have Paul Guilfoyle, my favorite. Now he's about to show up. He hasn't jumped yet. Paul Guilfoyle, I know him from CSI. He played kind of the Jim Gordon. He was kind of a mixture of Jim Gordon and Harvey Bullock, which was kind of fun. Anyway, so he plays the Saul Goodman attorney for the 1840s here, which is so fun. He's like an ambulance chasing lawyer for the time. He's basically representing the two guys on the ship. He's the scumbag attorney of the bunch.
Right.
He just comes in and always, I demand the immediate surrender. It's all boisterous and everything. And
right, exactly. It is very Saul-esque.
Saul in the worst dramatic circumstance of I want the slaves.
Okay, could you imagine Jimmy McGill being forced to do community theater? It'd be like that. Yeah,
I buy it. Okay, so we have McConaughey. McConaughey has appeared.
Yeah, this was a great surprise, Dragon. I did not know McConaughey was in this movie when we picked it out. This must be one of his earliest roles. I got to imagine, right?
Well, I mean, Dazed and Confused is probably way earlier in this, so.
Oh, yeah, right. I keep forgetting Dazed and Confused.
I'm saying, I'm sure he's done movies in the 80s, too. This is 97.
I mean, it's still very, okay, I guess maybe what I should rephrase that as, Dragon, is this must be one of his first, really big dramatic roles. Really heavy dramas. I mean, because this is way before the McConaissance.
Oh, way before that, yeah. So we have
obviously.
Roger S. Baldwin. He's a very interesting character in this piece. Where again, he's the one who has a great arc in this film. Where he's
I would wager to say he's probably the main character.
He and Cinque.
I mean, Cinque, yes, for sure. I feel like Cinque is the big driving force of the plot. But like you said, Dragon, I feel like McConaughey, he's got the big arc. I feel like he's the protagonist, if you will.
Sure, and of course, in that he is, he's offering his service as a property lawyer, basically saying, "Guys, I know you want to treat this as a human injustice matter, which is very accurate, but look, it's
as a property lawyer, Dragon. I like that he's basically the nice version of Roy Kroc.
Roy Kroc?
Yeah, because he's using the real estate legal thing for good instead of evil.
You mean Ray Kroc? That's what I'm. Yeah.
Okay, Ray Kroc. I'm sorry, it's been a while.
I wanted to make sure I had the right Kroc. I wanted to make sure you weren't.
Yes,
pulling
that
Kroc.
That Kroc.
Okay.
Yes.
But no, you're absolutely right. It is kind of like Ray Kroc for the for the noble purposes here.
Yeah.
But I love that he's viewing it in a kind of a skewed way of no, I can see. He's kind of like an ambulance chaser in that moment of hey, I can get this big case because it's property, even though these guys don't see it that way. He's the new legal ally that they need. Right? So we have the introduction of the wonderful Anthony Hopkins as John Quincy Adams. So originally Sean Connery was offered this role.
I mean, Dragon, Hopkins is just ridiculous. He is so good in this.
Hopkins always delivers. Even crappy movies, Hopkins delivers.
I know, but this is honestly one of my favorite roles of his. I'm not even kidding.
Really?
I really loved him in this, Dragon. I really did.
I love how sparingly we use him. And honestly,
Yeah,
that's
that's
kind
what
of
I'm
the key
saying.
to.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like he's great because he very much kind of, like I said, Dragon, he very much mirrors Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, where we get one scene with him per act, but it's always like one of the most memorable scenes of the act, culminating in, I think, the biggest monologue of the movie. So I feel like it's a really interesting mirror image of that role.
Yeah, the key to some of the most remarkable Anthony Hopkins performances seems to be less is more. Because you look at Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter's like, what is it, like 17 minutes or so, and it's like, and of course here it's 3 scenes again going. Well, I mean it's more. It's technically it's more because we have like a build up and act. The point being he comes into play. That's the thing. It's like each act we have a trial, and then we have a scene with John Quincy Adams reacting to said trial. It's pretty much the deal.
So I love that we literally, like, this movie has great, like, really understated but really Spielbergian intros to the characters. And Hopkins is no exception, where he literally is introduced with him, like, asleep.
Yes, and again, completely aware of what's going on. Again, it's sort of like the idiot nephew thing, where everyone's looking down on him, but he's actually possibly the smartest guy in the room. You know, where he just Hopkins plays wisdom and experience perfectly, and the idea is that John Quincy Adams is that he was the incorruptible president who only served one term, and everyone thinks like he's on the way out because he's such an old guy. Like everyone's just kind of looking like, oh, we're just casting him aside. It's like when an ex-president rolls into town, you still call him Mr. President, even though it's like, yeah, we're calling him Mr. President because of the position, but not the same. And I love the flower runner, by the way. It's a really great. I love the payoff of it specifically, where he's just picking the flower here, and we're gonna have the cultivation of it, and we're gonna have like the significance of it once Cinque comes into the fray.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to blow your mind about Anthony Hopkins here in this movie. So Anthony Hopkins, every movie he does, as you know, he reads the script. I believe it's either 200, 250 times, so he kind of gets everything.
Oh my God! Wow.
And well, yeah, that's old. Oh well, there you go. So every movie, I think it's 250, but he reads it 200 times before he takes on the role. And in addition to that, his research for this it was one thing. He looked at a picture of the man, one photo.
Wow.
He read the script as he always does.
Wild.
He takes on the role, and he's looked at the photo, which he bared a resemblance to the man, and that's all he did. He didn't listen, he didn't do like deep research beyond that.
You know what's so interesting about that is that I feel like his voice in this movie is super distinct. Like you can still hear the Hopkins in there, but he's really doing something with it. You know. So I honestly assumed he did a ton of research to get to that voice.
Just the script and the one photo.
That's amazing.
Now, something else too. This is going to be ridiculous for the time. At the time, to show you how much things have changed. Actors were upset. I guess in the actors community, they were upset, from what I hear, that you cast Spielberg. How could you cast an Englishman as an American president?
Oh God, really?
Which, of course, we've seen how this has changed over the years, given that all the iconic superheroes at some point, at least the big three, have been played by Brits.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
that's funny.
Okay, now we skipped over Morgan Freeman. I think we should bring him up here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Morgan Freeman is like, I feel like his character is like very understated, but that's kind of like the point of his character. He's kind of like, in a lot of ways, he's sort of like keeping his head down throughout a lot of the movie.
Yeah, now he's an original character to the film. He did not exist in history.
He's like a composite of a few like, not necessarily. He's like a composite of like an idea of a historical person, right? Like, basically, he's a composite of the idea of like a freed slave who has a role in society, but he's still kind of like struggling with his past, right?
I mean, if anything, he might be a composite of the Tapper of the Tappan character, the Stellan Skarsgård character, and the Austin Pendleton character. His role in the story would be that the Austin Pendleton character, the bad translator, the one who sucks, that guy. That was basically the extent of his role, which we then gave to, instead of Austin Pendleton, we gave it to Freeman to find the translator. That was really his only role in real life. It was kind of between that and the I guess I'm assuming honestly it was either that or he's completely.
Which, by the way, I have issues with how that plays out. We'll get to it.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Honestly, he might have been completely an addition for the film, as far as I can tell, outside of that one bit. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how much of if he's even that much of a composite. He might just be completely original for the story. But anyway, slice it. So Morgan Freeman, though, interestingly, he was the first actor cast for the film. He was the first one cast, and
I feel like it's obvious casting, though. I mean, like Morgan Freeman, he's got that weight. He's kind of like got that dignity, but weight to that sort of role. I feel like it's a very similar role to something like Shawshank. The weight plus the dignity.
Right, and originally he was auditioned for a smaller role. He was auditioned for the translator's role, and he preferred the role of the abolitionist. He requested, and Spielberg, amended. He obliged that. Yeah, like of course, yeah, sure, you can take the abolitionist role. It's awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so so right now we're again. So after every scene with Anthony Hopkins in the film, we end on like Quincy Adams giving a piece of advice that is kind of cryptic and kind of like wonderfully kind of like kind of stoic, and you have this bit of like, okay, you basically find a man, like lower your expectations, essentially, like find a man who gets strengthened after the losses, which of course would be the ambulance chasing lawyer. In this case, it would be a property guy. And I love how
I really like that idea, though. I really like the whole like you can't go into this thinking you're going to win. You have to go into this just like trying to throw everything against the wall, essentially.
Yeah, and he also gives Jodson, the Morgan Freeman character, a lesson in finesse. And of course, given the end speech, the whole speech is predicated on finesse. Like basically, if you just say this is right, this is wrong, it's not going to sway anybody. You've got to finesse them into that line of thinking. So those are we're setting up all the key things for that finale throughout the film with him, really, really succinctly, very, very nice. And I love that over that fish scene when McConaughey's eating the fish and all that stuff. I love that we kind of set up the stakes over the fish. Over basically anyone who gets the slaves are probably going to execute them, which is not good.
Mm-hmm.
That's most likely what's going to happen. Now, this is what I'm saying. This is where the subtitles get really clever. This is where I'm really digging it here. So the idea that we're trying to interpret, again, the culture clash of it all. Like, okay, so the religious people, they're really solemn when they're issuing their prayers and their tributes, versus us, where we're kind of having a good time. Like we're on the boat and everything. It's more of a joyous celebration.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of exploration in terms of cultural differences, for sure.
And also, we kind of setting up the religious aspect, which will come into fray during kind of our low of lows.
Indeed.
So we have now I got to tell you, here's another gripe I have with the movie. Again, it's not a deal breaker. It's just something where I think they may have like overextended. Like we want to make sure we're accurate about everything. It's like, guys, I think the idea, if I read it correctly, is that in African tribes, different. Like they're not all Mende. As in, you have Mende land. Basically, the prison's giant prison cell area here is divided into sections per the African tribes where they hail from. So you have the Mende tribe, the Tempe tribe, and I think there may or may not be a third one. So it's like you can't put the desk here. This is our land. You can't put it there. It's our land. So throw it in the corner. No one's using that corner.
Right.
And it just feels like, did we really need to go through look, I know everyone's like, we want authenticity, we want all.
I mean, honestly, this feels like the kind of like Spielberg like character building where it's like it's it's sort of interesting, but it's a little on the nose of like, all right, we get it. It's they're trying to basically, Dragon, what I read the scene is they're trying to assert their space. You know what I mean? They're trying to assert like, no, you can't just come into our space. This is our space, essentially.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, Tiki. All just saying, like, did we need like 2 to 3? It's
a very heavy-handed way to do it.
Yeah, it just feels like, I think it feels like an eager, like, I did my homework. See, we have all the tribes here. We can't just we don't want your desk here. Move it somewhere else. I mean, I think just making completely one tribe, given we only spend one scene talking about the differing tribes, when the rest of the movie we don't. I don't know, but again, small gripe. But again, the desk gag is kind of funny. Though we don't want this desk here. Get off. Okay, so there's Austin Pendleton as the bad translator. Sorry, it's something Grimes Senior or something. Hosea Willard Gribbs Senior. That's the guy's name. He Austin Pendleton, of course, Max from the Muppet movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like to think the idea is that because they've never had to translate to Africans. It's just like they've never had the occasion to. Which is that's why he's so bad at his job here. It's like I've never had to put into practice.
Right, and especially in something with this high of a stakes,
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, if I translate this wrong, it's like God knows what's going to happen on either end.
Yeah, and of course, again, I think the humor in the subtitles being sync off to the side, just kind of basically having the correct interpretation.
I like that throughout this movie, in small parts, we do get levity.
Yeah, the whole
That
dummy
is a
scraper
Spielberg.
thing.
It is a Spielberg signature for sure.
The translation of lawyer in the African kind of culture would be dung scraper. It's like that's kind of funny. It's like, oh, that's about right. Yeah. Again, just being of no help. And again, so yeah, we've shown kind of in our first proceeding here, kind of in the Act One space, like yeah, we're unarmed right now. This is not good. We need a translation, otherwise we're going to be in deep done.
Yeah, and I feel like the language barrier is like kind of like the big arc of the movie, and I appreciate that. I feel like it's to me, it's kind of like one of the big things the movie can kind of like hang its hat on is, sort of like establishing a bond beyond typical language and words,
Yeah. Now, Yamba, I like how we took like a gag here. I don't know if gag's maybe the right word, but we took the Yamba took the Bible, and it's gonna have a wonderful payoff later with kind of the religious allegory of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It happened in the earlier scene because we have this judge before he gets changed around and everything. I love that because it's such an unusual case. Like we had like 44 defendants. The judge had like go weave his way through these guys and had to raise the chain so he can go through because they're all bound together. Right. And he's just like looking like, what is happening right now? What is this?
It's just like a tiny little bit of like dark humor.
Yeah. It's like a RICO trial before that was even a thing. All right, so this is basically we have. Here's the thing: they're playing loosey goosey with it, which I can't tell you how legal proceedings were all back in the olden days. All I know is in certain times, they like at least in the English side of things, I think they still wear the wigs. Honestly, I think, or at least in the '90s, they still wore the wigs. So we're not that far back, or at least on that side of the pond here. So all I can tell you is that I assume they're in the opening statements phase, and I guess that remains true because they're going to kind of break that once the other guy Baldwin goes into his opening statement. So I think you're playing loosey-goosey with it. Anyway.
I mean, I don't mind the lack of wigs because I've always found the wigs to be just kind of like visually just sort of like weird.
No, I'm with you. I'm just pointing out. Like recently, I've seen like on the BBC, I saw some preceding stuff, and it looks like even the modern setting, they're still wearing the wigs, which threw me off. I'm saying, when I think old school judges, I think the wigs, and we didn't do that. I agree. The wigs are a little weird. But my point is here, so we're doing the opening statements, and what we're establishing here is, okay, so prosecution is saying, okay, this is clearly, they're murderers on a ship. This is clear-cut case. And then Baldwin here points out the very obvious thing, like, well, no, it's a property. It's the less obvious thing. It's a property case. This isn't about murder. That's a fact. That happened. But, we need to figure out who goes where. And what he's trying to prove is that they were illegally obtained. If you prove that livestock essentially was illegally obtained, well, the livestock would probably have to go free.
Yeah, exactly. A really good opening from McConaughey here, kind of like setting the tone. I like how throughout the movie, it's like, one of the things I do respect about the movie is that we never really come down too hard as far as like the prosecuting side being evil per se. And I know that's like a weird thing to say, but like I like that they acknowledge that at the time in history it's a very complicated, very turbulent time. And so like like even someone like John Quincy Adams, it's like at the start of the movie he doesn't want to, he's a good guy, but he doesn't want to get involved just because he's trying to stay basically trying to stay out of it. So I like that it's like we don't really demonize anyone in this movie, Dragon. We certainly see the horrors of it, but we don't really. It doesn't feel preachy, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, you're right about that, and that the prosecution it's less. They're not demonized, but they are. It's basically they're operating.
They're taken to task for sure.
They are. What I'm saying is that they're less. It's not. They're just closed-minded in that they're looking the way society is looking upon us, which to us is very cruel and demon-like, but doesn't make them demonized. It makes them not progressive. So one thing I don't get why when he's demonstrating the smile with one of the Africans, that guy's filed teeth, which just looks scary as all get out.
I did not get that either. I didn't get the point he was trying to make with
It's like
that.
the lip plate guy from Black Panther. I don't really get some of the style choices.
Right.
It's just maybe it's a cultural thing. I'm sure it absolutely is significant. I just don't get it myself. It's just like, why? Who thought this was a good idea? How's that guy going to?
No, it was just weird because it's like I feel like it was trying to make a point with the case because they definitely lingered on it. I was just, for the life of me, I can't figure out what that point is.
Well, the point he was trying to make, I mean, I'm just saying the razor sharp teeth didn't, I don't think, help this point. But the point he's trying to make is that they don't speak. What he's trying to prove too is that they do not hail from Cuba or an American plantation, which again proves they are from. For some reason, we have to prove our Africans are from Africa. How this is really a
so that was like, I was like, what, really? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the weird thing in the movie. That's a more of a thing where I think it's just more how it was back then, where you'd have to prove somehow that these are not, against the ridiculous hoops that we're forced to jump through here. Of like, we have to prove that they were. The people who cannot speak a lick of English or Spanish are not from America or Cuba. They're from Africa. Like, we have to prove that some reason. So I'm saying, if you look at it from a distance, like, it looks really ridiculous. But if you look at it kind of closer, it's like, yeah, it's that we're jumping through hoops because it's the old times.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if I conveyed that well, but let's just go with it.
I mean, do you think in putting a scene like that in there, they're basically trying to say, like, look how ridiculous it was?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, later, I don't know. It's just something that kind of occurs to me when I'm watching the final judge, at least the first of many final judgments come in, where we're saying, okay, well, clearly, yeah, they are not from Cuba. I've made that determination. We're like, yeah, you made that determination. It's very clear they're not from Cuba.
Sure.
Of course, we're starting the connection, the bond here is through the window between Cinque and Baldwin. Of course, we had that great moment as the trial started with I have a bad feeling the dung scraper speaks for us.
Yeah, I like that. I like the arc there, Dragon. I like how it's like we go from just like Cinque just absolutely has no respect for this guy at all. He just thinks he's just like a joke, you know, at the start of the movie. Like, that is some good character work.
Yeah, and of course here we have the handshake arc, which is basically they're going to kind of meet each other in the middle by the end of the movie with how that works. Where I believe like the African, I think the African handshake was sort of like kind of bring it in essentially with like the hand thing, like what he's doing now, and versus just the traditional
Black Panther a little bit.
Yeah, sort of like that one's more of like kind of like a unitary gesture of like respect, and, kind of like togetherness and such. Since you bring up Black Panther, I want to get this in there somewhere. Djimon Hounsou, the original Black Panther, he voiced him. He's the first actor to really play Black Panther in the motion comic and voiceover.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it was really cool. Again, that was a huge Black Panther comic, and they got him got a real actor to do the voice, for just a motion comic of all things. And of course, years later, it's kind of funny they both end up in the MCU, he and Boseman.
Yeah, it is funny.
Of course, for the folks, very obvious, he plays Korath in Guardians of the Galaxy. And another famous role is for one line, which is great. It's like, and everyone in their
you're right. It is one line. It's a famous one-line role. You're right.
I mean, he has like a cut. Like, again, you can count the lines he has on one hand, but that's
let's be honest, Dragon. Yeah. That is the one line. All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just love the fact everyone in their mother will know Djimon Hounsou for that one line. Okay, so seriously, I want to give major. We're talking about Hounsou. We give him major points. This is a scene where his performance really comes alive outside of just kind of the wonderful, just kind of physical acting from the opening. Is that he comes into this scene very, very comical and collected. In that he wants to. They're both coming at this scene at the exact same angle of, okay, I want to express myself to you, but I need to express myself to you, but we clearly don't understand each other's language. So they're trying to figure out like a middle ground of, okay, we need to work together even though we don't want to. And here we have kind of the drawing of home and trying to establish, the dirt means home.
I think maybe if you would have used a salad as a frame of reference.
I'm sure that would help.
Little bit of topical humor there.
Yep, kind of MCU adjacent, let's say.
That's my lunch.
Yep.
God.
And another 80s beverage, but we don't have time for that.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Sorry, 90s beverage.
So yeah, like I said, I do genuinely think that that the anti Ray Kroc thing is very much kind of like at the forefront of my mind with McConaughey. It's like he's trying to use the legal loophole of them being property for the good, you know?
Yeah, it is apt. And again, I do the arc being he's using that for his own purposes. He thinks this is going to be an easy case. Like, hey, I'm qualified to do this, where I handle property. I can, and just again, he is looking at this defense as clients as property, but as he kind of goes through the experience here and just sees the uphill battle.
I think pretty quickly that dissolves away, though.
No, you're right. That's what I'm saying. But I mean, if you look in that opening scene, we're just bringing him over as like a prop to demonstrate.
Sure.
That's not exactly showing his clients all the due respect. And I think over time, like instantly, I mean, honestly, from this scene onward that we just went through, that's where the change is. So again, it is. That's what I'm saying. It does change rather quickly. Also, apparently, I think I looked in like the synopsis of this somewhere that 3 years pass in the movie. Now, I'm assuming
Really?
I don't think necessarily. Here's the thing: trials do go along for a long time, and there's like a 6-month period with the sale. So I imagine like half of that time is getting from point A to point B with the opening, and then there's probably like a space from when we did all the stuff at the end, towards the very end of the movie after the big trial.
Right, yeah.
So I'm saying that's probably a year and a half, and then maybe the trial goes on for 2 years. This trials tend that there's prep time and there's that, but it does. I think that should have been indicated if that really was what they're doing. Right now, I'm just taking this as linearly, as 6 months to a year at most. That's what I'm taking it as.
Like maybe they should have had like just a couple time cards indicating how far along in the timeline we were.
Yeah, I mean, we had the 6 months thing. I mean, why not at least one more, you know? No. I mean, it's not important. It's just, I mean, because ultimately, I'm just taking it at face value, it still plays. Now, again, so now we're searching for evidence on the Amistad itself. Again, keeping the namesake of the movie alive here. It's the Amistad, not the courtroom. But, yeah, But I do seriously. I think this is the best of the Morgan Freeman scenes, the best of the Theodore Jotson. This is his big moment where a lot of times in the movie we will have like the Africans like having a reaction to him being like, hey, there's a very affluent black man in the scene here, yet he is treated like an equal, it seems, when we are not. What's going on here? And I think the power of this scene, as we're kind of searching like the bowels of the ship, is a man who again was an ex-slave. He's got a very interesting backstory. He's confronted with the life that he's tried to leave behind. You know, the abolitionist horror at the firsthand experience of like what a nightmare situation is, like being on the ship and like when the light goes out, he's like trapped in like a maze of chains. It's scary.
Yeah, and of course it's a great setup because we're gonna get like this is gonna be the set for the most horrifying imagery in the whole movie.
Oh yeah, the Takora horror show.
Yeah.
All that bad stuff to Takora, man. Amistad was the mutiny. Takora was...
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. And again, this bit right here was about to be tangled in the chains. It's just really like, oh, God. And it's the Napoli. We don't know necessarily. I think the assumption is either he or perhaps I don't know exactly how it worked with the Jotson character. I don't need to know. I wonder like if he personally was on a ship at one point in time or not. I don't know if he was.
I like that they kind of leave it vague because I feel like I don't think everyman is the right word to describe him as, but I feel like, as I was kind of trying to say earlier, I feel like his character is an amalgamation of the experience of the freed slave who still had to see slavery take place even though he himself was freed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that we don't know a ton about his backstory, I feel like kind of like adds to the everyman quality of that.
Yeah, my read on his character in the movie was that his fear, through the scene just in general, like he has a fear of falling out of touch with his ancestry. His ancestry, given our big final scene, is a really huge component of the film. Ancestry, and then you carry your ancestors with you. And again, I think it's kind of like maybe him putting a judgment on himself of I gotta help these guys, or else like I don't deserve to be free.
Sure, very much so. That's how I read it.
Yeah. Of course, here we have the big Takora smoking gun being discovered here. The whole, like, we're finding the manifest. Wait a minute, this doesn't say the Amistad.
Right, exactly.
Big Perry Mason moment. Before Perry Mason,
it is a courtroom drama after all, Dragon. We gotta have those.
Yep. Now, of course, just to establish it here. So, the Cliff Notes version of the Takora is that this was the part of the Atlantic slave trade. These guys didn't play by the rules, and that certain nations outlawed slavery, and they would circumvent like the nations that banned it, and they would just kind of sail in between them. So these guys basically legally they were in the wrong here, which is the big feather in the cap of Baldwin here. Like this is our loophole. This is what we can use. We can prove that they were attained illegally, and then that the guys at least take out one of our three pursuing legal parties here between the Queen of Spain, the Navy, and Paul Guilfoyle.
Right, exactly.
We can take Paul Guilfoyle out here.
Also, Dragon, I just want to get it in there that that scene with the with the chains really kind of called to mind Seven a little bit. With Morgan Freeman kind of in detective mode, and he's in kind of like the creepy aftermath of the scene of the crime.
Oh yeah,
shadows and dark lighting.
Yeah. I love how all the Africans have just hearing the name Takora, because that's where all the bad stuff happened. It's like here's Takora. It's like Takora, it's like, oh god. Because Amistad's where they had their big stand. Which, by the way,
no, you're right. By comparison, nothing really too bad happened on the Amistad. You're right.
Yeah, I should go back for a moment with the Amistad. I forgot to mention a very important detail. So a big reason why the Amistad is so important as well is that, from what I understand, that was like the only time a slave fought back on the boat. That was the first time that really ever happened, where a slave just refused to be.
Yeah, from what I understand, that's the case too. It's definitely the biggest case of something like that happening, and the most successful case. Happening
exactly where they basically got to do that, and they basically got away with it by the end of the movie. Very inspiring moment. Again, it's a very it's huge.
Sure.
But yes, again, that's an iconic moment where the Takora is the horror show. It's kind of the Holocaust on the seven seas.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! I was not ready for it when we got to it, Dragon.
Nor was I. I mean, it just kind of ratcheted itself up with how horrible it got. But again, we'll get there. Right now, we have kind of a punch of progress. It's about to happen. Also, again, Stellan Skarsgård, yet another MCU pull.
I know this movie is like packed with MCU people, Dragon. It's weird. Like,
Feige must have loved this.
Cool scenes where there's like 3 or 4 actors in the scene, and like 75% of them are MCU players.
It's my kind of movie. I like that. Yeah, of course. Let's look how delighted Jotson is. Like, you got punched because you're helping out the cause. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a badge of honor. That's nice.
Yeah. And this is, yet again, we have the Queen of Spain we don't need as many check-ins with her, but at least we also really keep it spare.
The Queen of Spain thing, Dragon, to me, it's one of the more, like, Spielbergian things in the movie that kind of, like, works against the movie. Like, it almost kind of, like, works against the movie's tone.
Yeah, and again, we only need to see her once. Honestly, that first introductory scene with the doll, literally, we have the doll for the way it gets worked into, like a girl playing with her dollhouse or her dolls in comparison to how the courts are working.
Right. Yeah.
So that's all we really need, just that introduction. But I don't know. Anna Paquin needs work too, I guess. I don't know.
Like I said with the piano, I think she was actually like nominated. She was like, I believe with the piano, Dragon. I'd have to fact check this.
I forget if she won or not, but she was nominated for an Oscar.
I know she didn't win, but I believe she was the youngest person ever nominated for an Academy Award.
Really? I did not know that.
I believe so.
Like at that time, or like still
at the time.
Okay.
So yeah, like she was a big deal. She was a hot commodity at the time.
Yeah. So Martin Van Buren. So he is. Martin Van Buren, from what I understand, he basically, he's a big supremacists love Martin Van Buren for this event. I want to say basically because he played ball with the South's goals and everything that kind of indebted him. Like, it was like, I remember this is going to be a really obscure pull, but it does relate. So there's an episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza kind of runs into the Van Buren boys gang, and the idea is like the Van Buren boys. If you make the OK sign, which
The
now I
Van
believe,
Buren Boys gang.
yeah, the Van Buren boys gang, yeah.
Oh dear God!
And the idea is it's like a supremacist group, and then there's it's somewhat based on a real. I don't know if they call themselves the Van Buren boys in real life. I don't know if that was the gag or not. But the point being, and now the symbols come back in the vogue with all the terrible stuff that's been going on in the world in the last couple of years. So basically, the OK sign basically signifying KKK. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
And again, in the Van Buren. At least the way Seinfeld puts it, it's a reference to Van Buren, which I'm just connecting the dots. You're saying it might be in connection to the events in this movie. Like they thought he was like, as we see, Van Buren just wants to get reelected. That's all he cares about. And he's just kind of like, oh, I'll take on the cause. I just want to keep things spinning. I don't really care. He doesn't care about any of this. And of course, history did not reflect kindly on him, as we're seeing. And I love just them explaining corruption of the courts to a president of like, hey, juries can be replaced, judges too.
Yeah. So this is the judge being replaced to me is like one of the most infuriating things in the movie. I mean, obviously, apart from all the slavery stuff, like infuriating from a legal point.
No, I get it, man. I do. That's like too. Just like switch it out.
Here comes this young hotshot who's just clearly biased.
Yep, and again, and I love the misconception.
They're just like rubbing shoulders with each other.
I love how wrong they were about the young judge, though. After that story, after that harrowing story, the young judge.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
And the religion, there's also there's slight religious kind of content to it, in that the whole thing being, he was Catholic, so they thought he'd be in the bag for the Queen of Spain, who's also very Catholic.
But of course, wasn't the whole thing that he was kind of ashamed of his Catholicism?
Yeah, he was. So they also had a little bit of blackmail on him too with that.
Yeah.
All right, so here, this is a great, and again, we've established kind of this greenhouse area of his home, and again, so we saw him pick the flower. Now we're seeing him kind of grow the flowers, and we're going to learn the significance of them later. I know I've said that already, but it's kind of nice to see it kind of bloom, so to speak.
By the way, McConaughey's reaction is great.
Yeah, it's just tearing up everything.
All right, Dragon. I'm just gonna do a check-in with the timestamp.
Okay, I'm at 1 hour, 1 minute, and it's going to be 20 seconds.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how I keep getting consistently like almost a minute behind you.
Well, we're in the greenhouse right now, like the
yeah, I'm in the greenhouse too, and I'm about a minute behind you.
All right.
Hold on.
I love Quincy Adams' advice in this scene. I'm just speaking generally about the scene. I just love the.
Okay, let me know when you're at 1 minute to. Or I'm sorry, 1 hour, 2 minutes, 11 seconds.
Okay.
11 seconds.
Love the way Hopkins says, no. Just playing the sarcasm of like, no. Corruption, get out of here.
Corruption in the courts?
The judicial branches being separate? No. Yeah, we're almost there. Okay, right. Now.
All right. Well, Dragon, I don't think it's going to stick, but I don't know.
Okay, anyway, so
at least we only have one other commentary this month.
Oh, we have. Well, we'll cross that bridge later. Anyway,
what other commentary besides?
Yeah, we have another one after that.
What?
We want to talk about it now.
Yes, I'm just
Great Muppet Caper. It's
going to bother me. What is it?
Muppet Caper, Great Muppet Caper.
Oh right. Oh God, I forgot we were doing that. All right, fair enough.
Okay, anyway, so I really like the advice that we get here about the secret of
paint the story. What's your story? That to me, that is like the most pivotal advice of the movie. I think that to me is almost like the linchpin of the whole plot.
And let me tell you something. I don't know how if this is just an example of a lawyer thing, or if this is like a wide thing done in the lawyering community. There's an adage I heard about the lawyering community where they call it using a rabbit. There's a rabbit trick to lawyering where if you tie in a personal anecdote or story, that will basically compare that's when you use like a little anecdote in your closing statement or something.
I can totally see that. Yeah.
And basically you liken it to an experience that will then kind of sell the jury and lead them down the rabbit hole to your line of thinking. So that's called a rabbit. And basically the same principle of like, you sell them on the story. What's your story? Whoever tells the best story wins ultimately, which is great. Some legal advice I'll give you for free.
You know that random guy from the one episode of Seinfeld that was on Survivor?
Yeah.
He had a really memorable confessional about like it's all about your story. You got like what's your story? I'm a storyteller.
I'm surprised how much Seinfeld we're pulling into this.
I'm surprised that you were actually like you actually let me make a Survivor reference.
Well, you used Seinfeld, so that was your end.
All right, fair enough. Anyways,
Anyway, so a little fun fact.
Guy.
So yeah, so the so the John Williams score. I mean, it's not one of his old timers, but I gotta tell you though, my favorite.
It's good. You know what it reminds me of, Dragon? I don't know if you're gonna have this or not. I really hope you do. The main theme really gives me a Hellfire vibe.
I didn't get that, but I'm not overly familiar with that.
I don't know.
Wait, you mean hold on, you don't mean a movie call, you mean actually the Hellfire scene, right?
I mean like the song Hellfire.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant like a movie called Hellfire. Yeah, I mean the thing of the Hellfire song, I know it just sounded like a weird pull because I don't get the Hellfire comparison. Honestly, I don't, but it's
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like a similar like I'm not good with music and explaining music, but
Well, let me tell you what I do like in the movie. I really love, honestly, my favorite bits of John Williams' score in the movie are all the John Quincy Adams scenes. I think the score is wonderful in those scenes. It's kind of nice and kind of assist the build. I don't know, kind of the stoicism of it all. I don't know if stoicism is even the right term, but it's okay. So I love now we've gotten the advice from Quincy Adams of that we need to tell a story now. To tell a story, we need a translator, otherwise it's not going to fly.
This is like, I understand what they're doing here, but this is one of the more awkward bits in the movie. Them just like walking around saying the language, hoping that someone recognizes the language.
Well, not even the language, just saying numbers. That's all they have.
That's what I'm saying, Dragon. To me, it's one of the more awkward scenes in the movie.
It is.
I know we need a point A to point B to get us to Ejiofor, but still, it's kind of weird.
Now, here's a fun fact. Chiwetel Ejiofor, this was his debut. This is his feature debut.
Oh, was it? Nice.
And I got to tell you, it's a really strong debut. He was really good. Of course,
he's later on going to go on to win an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. So.
So it's all relative. It's really nice. It worked out for him because he is really good in this
12 Years a Slave is honestly like one of the few movies I would actually compare this to as far as how brutally it depicts the slavery.
It would be accurate. I think it's an accurate comparison. And if I'm right, just looking at this guy, giving the file down.
I mean, that's like basically Dragon 12 Years a Slave is like a whole movie's worth of that scene.
Yeah. Also, I believe, if I'm right, and I'm realizing this now, poor guy with the filed teeth died.
Poor filed teeth guy, not filed teeth guy, not to make light of this. You're right.
Yeah, because he did have like the nice moment there with the smile and everything in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Like, that's a shame.
Yeah. But this does, of course, now this is another thing with I don't know. To tell you the truth, the conflict with the prison stuff is some of my least favorite stuff in the movie. Like, it's interesting from a cultural point of view. I just don't really feel like it's needed in the broader story. The whole, like, we need to bury him as opposed to the guards burying him. I guess it's a moment where the leads gain some trust with the slaves. I guess that's kind of why it's in there. It's kind of like a little bit of a bridge, but to me it feels a little bit too conventional Spielbergian of like, oh boy, here's a conflict.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically we need like the first olive branch of okay, like, hey, if it were me, I'd let him bury him. That's me.
It feels, I guess it feels screenplay 101, Dragon, to me, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, I wonder if the logic perhaps was that, well, someone did die historically, and we got to reflect that somewhere. Might as well make it a moment.
I don't know. I mean, you might be right.
I can't verify that at all. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to me, I feel like the more likely scenario is that they embellished someone dying for the sake of the drama, but...
I wonder if there is a head count, because we had 44, and if there's 43, we have to address somebody dropped off.
That's true. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know the numbers of this. Exactly. I'm just saying if there was at the top we said 44, so I'm assuming if it was 43 reported somewhere, we have to, I don't know.
Sure, sure.
So the numbers kind of factor in during that whole ghastly arithmetic scene later. So,
right. Oh God.
yep. But you're right, though. Some of this, though, like for example, I don't mean, why is this guy making evil eyes at what's going on over here? It's like I don't think this stuff we don't really need.
right.
And again, it just feels like why do we have to complicate the whole like there are like differing tribes inside the cell? We just feel and we're not even going to pay it off. It just feels like why can't we just have them all be like men?
I really think it does kind of come down to like Spielberg wanting to be realistic with it.
Yeah, I know there's authenticity, but there's authenticity. I think it's we're trying to kowtow to people who want everything to be so exactly precise versus a liberty taken.
I hear you. I hear you.
Man, again, I won't ding him for it. It's just, you know.
I mean, not to date this, but there's a controversy going on within the Heights that I think is fucking absolutely insane.
I think I know what that. I think I heard about that.
It's insane, Dragon. All right, I'm just going to come out on air and just say that controversy is fucking insane.
If it's the ridiculous one I'm thinking of, I think it's also silly.
Yeah. I could totally derail this podcast.
Okay, let's not derail it because that's not even the Spielberg musical, so we shouldn't even bring it up.
No, but the funny thing is that it's kind of in direct competition with a Spielberg.
I know, which is weird, but
that also has a lot of Latin influence to it that may or may not prove to be controversial.
Right.
Anyways,
so now we have our translator, which is going to be our big gateway token. Here's what this is going to give us the tools we need to actually.
I like that this is like right at the halfway point of the story. I feel like that's one of the better pieces of pacing in the movie. And generally speaking, I feel like pacing is not one of this movie's strong suits. But this, like having this character show up right at the halfway point, I feel like that's a solid beat.
Certainly, yes. So again, basically, what we're getting, we're about to get into here is getting the lion story, which of course is a really big symbol of the film. We have like the lions. I assume it's a lion's tooth. I know technically that's not the tooth he got from the lion. It was a gift from his wife, so it has like another significance. I mean, either or, but we kind of connect it to the lion story, which is like the idea that Cinque, he had the. Had like this miracle, like David and Goliath moment of like, the lion was coming at me and my family, and I tossed a rock at it and killed it. I threw a rock at it.
I threw a rock at it.
And it won. I mean, we know it killed.
I love the symbolism, though. I love the symbolism of like this whole guy is like the legacy of this guy. The reason why he's like this big kind of folk hero to the tribe is basically it just comes down to luck. It's like in his eye, it's not skill at all. Like. I don't want to give away any spoilers for Mayor of Easttown in case you intend to watch that, but there's something that happens that we find out about Evan Peters' character in that show that's oddly similar thematically. The whole idea of you think I'm the hot shot, but I really just kind of like lucked into this position.
Right.
All right.
So again, some strong acting here, and again, what I love about kind of our chain of events here is that we start off with the lion story, which then goes into so again we have kind of our story to sell to humanity, which then breeds into our evidentiary story, and then we reveal we have this wonderful transition at the end of all of it to go from the atrocities to the very economic choice of now he already told all this not just to us the audience but to the court.
That was a great directing choice for sure.
So that was an example of excellent pacing versus we're gonna stop to get water.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong, though. You're not wrong. Anyways.
So, by the way, I think it's about. I think he's going into the lion story now.
Oh, I am not ready to visually see this shit again, Dragon.
Well, no, right now we're in the lion story, so right now we're still all.
I know, but I know what's coming.
When I talk about my favorite detail, there are two things I love in this lion story. One, Ejiofor's performance is so good because he's getting jazzed out of his mind hearing the story. and he's conveying the excitement versus the wizened man who has the moral at the end of it already.
Right, right, yeah, totally.
This isn't pride. This isn't excitement. This is the reality in which I was lucky. I could have been killed at one shot. That's not strength. That's luck. And my favorite detail is that he's directing this towards towards the Jodson character, who, again, in a sense, again, it's reminding you of the stakes of the pressure is on you. You can't just be luck. You're going to have to put a lot of effort into helping us secure our freedom here. Essentially, it's the whole it's basically earning your freedom versus just the luck of turn of events of hey, you're an abolitionist now because things worked out for you.
Sure.
It was an interesting choice that he directs all this to Morgan Freeman in the scene. I don't know. I think it was a good choice. I think it's up to interpretation. What exactly?
To do the lion scene all as a monologue and then to transition into the flashback.
I think it works because, again, you don't want to just start with, because they're not going to really necessarily know the atrocities. And again, if I'm taking the whole Freeman thing to be he possibly, again, given ambiguous, he probably wasn't on a boat for all we know. He was probably grandfathered into it or something. But it's the fact that
you know what? I'm only going to do this because we need a little bit of levity before all the heavy shit we're going to get into, Dragon. All right, so forgive me. I'm on a boat, Morgan Freeman. Take a look at me. All right. I'm sorry. I had to get that out of my system. All right. God, I'm sorry.
It's not like 50 people drowned or anything.
Dragon, I have to find my levity somewhere, all right?
God, at least you didn't say it when we actually had the boat on screen.
Oh my God.
Small comforts. All right, so now here we go. So now we're using the transition point of McConaughey is trying to bolster hey, there's the other line, the whole you conquered the you conquered the Amistad line, as it were, and then we realize the Takora, though, that the Amistad was small potatoes compared to the Takora.
Oh yeah,
Takora was roots on steroids.
Oh, God, I mean, it really is, man. Jesus Christ.
No Ed Asner to lighten the way or the moral ambiguity there.
Oh, I forgot Ed Asner was in Roots.
He was really good in it, too. I forget it. I swear to you, they showed it in school once, and I was so captivated by it that I could never watch the rest of it. I'm sure it was great. But he was amazing in that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, here we go. The tooth. Oh, yeah, the tooth's our transition point because it takes us to when he was taken. So, again, we go from the lion's story to, I assume, the lion's tooth. Really good transitioning point. And, of course, the lion's tooth being the wife, that his whole reason for doing what he did on the Amistad was any man would do whatever it takes to get back to his family.
Sure.
So we're seeing the separation from the family. Again, really getting this. So this is where the film really picks up steam story-wise in terms of our transitions and our pacing and the whole 9 yards.
Dragon, just to make sure we're on the same page as far as when the transition happens, I just fast forwarded just a little bit to let me see, to let's say what are you at now?
Well, I'm in Africa right now. It's just been netted. It's an hour, 17 minutes, and it's in counting. It's about to be 10.
Okay, I was only about 15 minutes or 15 seconds behind you. Okay, let me know when you're at an hour 17:53.
All right. Yes, so Sinke he's been captured again so perversely by other Africans, and that is a heavy hitting point. That is an interesting kind of wrinkle in the defense, I think. And assumably,
it makes the situation no less horrifying, but you can tell that might be a little bit of a loophole that our antagonist might use.
Yeah, well, he kind of does too, in a sense.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Which again, the assumption is that they've been enslaved and then it's been repurposed. Oh, hold on a second. Okay, get ready now.
Okay. All right. So we're seeing the slave fortress, which I mean, like I said, Dragon, I don't know. I honestly think my Jaws comparison might be more apt than you think it is, just because this slave fortress, it really is just a terrifying location that just kind of looms over the rest of the movie once you see it. It's just kind of this ominous sort of beacon for terrible things that happen.
Yeah, and the idea being, that's where everything was corrupted. Where again, whether they enslaved or they hired the Africans to turn on their own people, whatever happened there, that's where it happened at that place. And by the way, it's shot in Puerto Rico when we go on location there. Okay, so now we've entered the Schindler's List portion of the film.
Yep, the Schindler's List portion of tonight's.
It ain't for the faint of heart, kids. I'm going to warn you now.
Oh, God, I mean, I don't even know if I want to describe some of it, honestly.
It's again, as I already mentioned, it's just so twisted to see slaves forced to capture slaves, and we have I think the creepiest details when the slaves are being kind of put on board and everything and being lowered. They played a music box. How much more creepy and cruel can you make this scene? They're playing a music box.
So just like seeing the all the naked bodies just huddled together, under the floorboards of the ship, all chained up. I mean, obviously, very, very Schindler's List-esque visual cues there
with the camp and the whole the run sequence.
Right. Yeah, just
so
kind of just this moment right here, Dragon. Just being in the storm. I mean, how terrifying, how fucking horrifying.
Having no idea what's happening, or
right.
The ship. And there's a chance they could possibly drown. I mean, it's a whole. Then we have the woman. I believe, if I recall rightly, she has 2 babies, and then it's
I will admit that the woman giving birth during all this is maybe a little bit extreme.
I think I couldn't tell if she was actually giving birth, and I thought she was holding a baby. But
no, I'm pretty sure the implication is that she gives birth to the baby, and then
if she does, it's the cleanest baby ever.
That's what I'm saying, and then she dies in childbirth. I thought that's what the implication.
I mean, I think you're right, but I call BS on how clean that kid is after that.
Oh, I hear ya.
If you're, I'm saying I think your way is the best read on that situation, but I'm saying the way it comes across. I mean, I know we're critiquing an atrocity right now, so maybe that's not the It's really, you're griping about this? A woman has died giving birth.
Oh God.
I was saying I need to. Okay, now the music box is coming to phrase. All right.
Yeah.
This is horrible, though. Again, this all this going on right
it's
now.
We don't even really have a context for the whipping. You know what I mean?
This is the most horrific whipping I've ever seen.
They're just doing it just for the sake of fucking doing it. That's the fucked up thing about it. I mean, as far as we know.
The bit that really gets me is just the amount of blood and water and the spatter on poor Cinque.
Yeah, I mean, to make another Roots comparison, I mean, Roots has a class, that has one of the more iconic whipping scenes, but I mean, this just kind of blows it out of the water as far as just how graphic it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's iconic. This is more just utterly just kind of horrific and accurate.
I would honestly wager to say, as gripping and terrific as a lot of the stuff in 12 Years a Slave is, the whipping scene in this movie is even more extreme than anything in that movie.
And I love how the whipping is kind of oh God, I'm sorry, it's every time that blood spatter hits him, it just, oh God. And seeing how half dead the guy is being whipped, it's so horrifying. But the woman and child is making the choice to go overboard with the baby.
Very Dunkirk-esque moment for me.
And it's a moment that just kind of signifies he's thinking of his family and just that woman. Again, he's kind of losing his family in that moment.
That is, it's kind of a dark sort of foreshadow to the end of the movie. Where
I know.
For all intents and purposes, his wife and child very much probably ended up in a very similar circumstance.
Certainly.
Oh God, this is the most fucked up moment in the whole thing for me right here.
The food bit, right?
Yeah. Oh God.
I know comparatively it really seems like it's there's so much more horrible things going on, but
what fucks me up about it is the desperation and how they're hand picking who gets what. It's so goddamn dehumanizing, Dragon.
Honestly,
agree. I think the fact that it's not violent makes it even more disturbing to me.
I mean, this is on a fundamental, reactionary level. Obviously the other implications are far worse, but just for me, it's just so icky. They're holding the food in their hands. They don't get bowls or anything. It's just so
just visually, yeah. I mean, obviously the whipping is far more brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I mean, it is very disquieting. It's like it just doesn't feel
I
right.
feel like it's probably the most dehumanizing moment in the whole movie for me.
I think you're right. Now, to be
Except
fair,
maybe
this
this. Except maybe this.
okay. That's what I'm saying. This actually, I was about to say that thing. This is actually more dehumanizing because they're literally being thrown over like luggage or
I
garbage.
mean, this is hardcore, man. I assume this is like in the real story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the events of the
Yeah.
recording of the events. Yeah. Now, here's the thing, though. The
I'm
just
sorry,
the fact
Greg. Can you paint a picture of what's going on right now for the audience?
essentially what we're doing is, again, we saw that some people are sick on board during the feeding scene, so I assume they're taking purely for the fact that they're running low on resources and they probably have some sick people on board and weak people on board. They're dumping them like garbage into the sea, and they've done it in the most efficient and terrifying way possible. We've used the symbol of their capture, the chain, to chain them all together and throw them overboard so they weigh each other down. They drag each other with them. That they've killed 50 people.
I mean, that to me, that whole moment is like it's like the moment of the movie for me, as far as
It's like, what's worse, whipping or just drowning them in such a hopeless and dehumanizing way? That's the question. It's both equally horrible and just is brutal.
Oh, and speaking of dehumanizing, this got under my skin too.
I had no idea. That soap. It's like, what is this icky gunk?
Yeah, it's just soap, Dragon. The whole thing is that they're trying to just make them presentable for the fucking slave auction.
Yeah, slave auction.
I mean, just considering like after all the shit they went through, and it's like, all right, we're gonna fucking pretty you up so we can sell you again. It's infuriating, honestly.
It is, no question. And again, the idea being here, we're I believe we're selling them to the Amistad. So that's of course getting them to basically getting to our link up moment of the film. It's a hard watch, folks. It really is. I mean, it's compelling as all get out, and makes.
I'll be honest with you, Dragon. Honestly, I feel like something like this, where they kind of like almost like blindside you with how brutal it is in the middle of the movie, when you're almost kind of like lured into a false sense of security of it just being like a historical courtroom drama. I feel like that in itself is almost like even more effective and shocking than just Schindler's List being an all-out assault from top to bottom, of a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like a 10-minute sequence, but it really just slaps you in the face.
Yep, because I mean, the minute you go, like the minute after, let's go to Schindler. It's all dour. It's all
right,
like,
exactly.
Right after, like, hey, we've introduced the bon vivant to like, oh god, here's what we're doing. The moment that train enters the phrase, like, oh god. Anyway, so and again, now that we've basically he's regaled the court with, and I love this.
Like you said, that's great pacing. That's great editing right there.
Precisely, and I do love that the button to the scene too. I would have killed them too, knowing that they betrayed us and basically led us to being in this courtroom today. Just saying, I would have killed them too. So basically, we've just shown all the justification in the world. Not that it was really needed, but we showed all the justification in the world for like why they killed their captors. You wish they killed the Portuguese guys because there's on the Tacoma,
right? They were really kind of the problem, yeah.
They were. I'm not saying the Spaniards were any nicer about it, but still, it's like it was like, yeah, it's just like you understand it unequivocally. Like, yeah, that's why they killed for their own freedom. Like they were, being like thrown away by the dozens. So now we have, and again, it's a cunning legal tactic, but it is it makes you really kind of.
I hate to say it, but it's honestly like it's a decent defense.
What do you mean the defense of the prosecution?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The president's more of like a decent offense, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It's a decent offense. Yeah, you're right. It's like logically, I hate to say it, but it does kind of make sense.
Yeah, it's a real shady move using the translator and the language barrier against Cinque. Just using the whole the word for worker and slavery is essentially the same as in you have a debt, you work it off. Essentially, worker being slave. It's just it's horrifying. That to me is the shadiest thing ever, right there. And of course, later on, we're going to use kind of in more of like a deflating sense of like, there are no words for should in the Mende culture.
Sure.
something like that. So I want to call this out. So the hubris in Holabird's argument, which really struck me in this scene, is why would you basically why would you kill slaves? That's the paradox. You guys kill your own slaves, I'm sure. So why is this any worse? Where the thing that strikes the hubris in it all is like, why would you abuse and torture slaves, huh? If they're so valuable as you're saying, why would you abuse, torture, and kill them yourselves? Like, why do we do that if they're such a valuable commodity, eh? Like, there's
it's kind of just like a paradox of an argument in a lot of ways.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, you could say, why do we do it? Why do you do it? That's the better question, man. But unfortunately, it won't get much fire, unfortunately. And again, that's the trippy thing about slavery, the way it's raised in the legal argument here, is that and basically the stakes of the film, basically why the heck are bad guys in this film, like the Queen of Spain and everything? Why does everyone want slaves so badly? Like, slaves are the valuable commodity of free labor. It's an economic thing. That's why. And that's really kind of creepy when you think about it.
No, I mean, yeah, it is obviously it's a very disquieting part of history that we're still dealing with. That goes without saying, but
yeah.
But I do like the way that this lawyer is, like I said, Dragon, I don't like what he's saying.
But I respect how good he is.
Obviously, I don't agree with what he's saying. I don't feel like I need to put a disclaimer there, but just in case. But my God, the actor is doing a good job of making it seem convincing, or at least making it seem convincing that, that the people of this time would buy this kind of bullshit. You know what I mean?
Now, I want to talk about this guy. I love Captain Fitzgerald. He's good.
Okay.
Now that I'm saying this guy's really good in that. He's like the ethical kind of the ethical Navy. Well, the British Navy man. In that, he's confirming the manifest, the passengers and the cargo, and like the ghastly math of it all. Mm-hmm. And I just love how, like, again, the idea the British were very anti-slavery, so they're very appalled by all this, especially after hearing the tale said in the courtroom. I just love him giving Pasta away, just like giving it to him here of like, no, sir, like he's not budging an inch at all the horrors. And this guy is Forsyth, the guy questioning that, like the main lawyer. He, the guy who was sent by the president. He's the one later on. He's going to say, "Oh yeah, you say that military installation doesn't exist. They say the fortress doesn't exist."
Yeah, again, I like that the fortress is kind of like this, this kind of like doomsday thing of like it's almost larger than life of how terrible it actually is. You know what I mean?
It's kind of the slave factory, whereas in the idea they're taken there to be processed. So yeah,
right.
And that's where the auction went. I forget. No, I forget if that's where the auction went on or not. But now I guess
that's where the auction went on.
Okay, well there you go then. Yeah. But you're right. And that, again, it is sort of like it's kind of a pit stop Auschwitz for slaves. It's really not
right. Yeah. I believe in 12 Years a Slave we see something very similar as well.
I love the line here. It was like, "You think that's lucrative? No, I think it's very lucrative." Just saying, like, into your industry, it's very lucrative.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to like poke a hole of like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make financial sense. It's like, oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, and you get what you can get versus like slowing down your inventory. You bunch of sickos. I just love how Fitzgerald is awesome here. Just like we need a guy in the court here, just like sticking it to the man, not losing an inch.
I reckon this is gonna sound silly, but like it almost feels like a character out of Dunkirk or something.
Yeah, he does feel
Okay, good. I'm glad you agree with that.
He feels very.
I was like self-conscious to even bring it up, but it feels very much like just a proud British man. You know?
Yeah, he's an honor-bound British man.
Right.
Honor-bound military, little James Darcy-esque. I dig it.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I will admit, while I love this scene, I don't know if this be controversial or not. I mean, I just don't get it, so I have no real opinion about it. It's just I feel the big moment here, which is nice. The whole "give us free" is an awesome moment.
Okay, this is interesting. This is going to be a linchpin moment in this podcast, Dragon. What do you not get about it?
"Give us free" just feels very, very ill-timed. Now,
it's
I understand
broken English. Well, like the whole power of it is the fact that it is broken English, Dragon.
No. That's fine, Tiki. What I'm saying is, I don't care that's broken English. That's perfectly fine. What I'm saying is, it happens now when we're actually winning.
He can't understand it though.
I assume the scene is that
I
he's kind of
feel
getting.
like it's like, yeah, you're right. I don't know. I'm of two minds of it. Like,
I think he's getting PTSD thinking of the Navy men when it's not, because he's looking at the shoulder pads and everything. I think he's thinking of the Navy
sure,
men who basically captured him. So I assume
I
that's
kind of
why.
agree with you there. It is kind of like weird timing with kind of like the build up. Like, honestly, like I wasn't really sure what they were angling with the build up of it all.
Yeah.
But the moment itself, I think, is just super effective.
I know, I cannot refute the power of the moment.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
every time I go to the scene, it's like, this is a great moment, but it's like we have like this Captain Fitzgerald's doing awesome on the stand right now. Everything's going good. I mean, it's intense, but it's going good.
Sure.
I mean, fair enough, though.
I feel like maybe it's supposed to be just like almost like a punctuation on how powerful the testimonies are. You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I love this. I love this push in here. This is awesome, by the way. Just like when he first says it, like "Give us free," and we push in like that. Yeah, just like I've had enough. Give us free.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. It's undeniably cool, though. I'll give it that.
It's an iconic moment, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about as iconic of a moment as I think this movie has.
I think that in the end speaks.
Like, I feel like it's the moment that, like, if anyone, when people see this movie, I feel like, it is the moment, like, probably that if there's any sort of, like, pop culture moment in this movie, it's probably that.
I would, yeah. Give us free is the pop culture one. I think the legit moment would be the end speech. But you're right. This is the go-to.
Oh, the end speech is incredible, and we'll get there, sure.
Yeah, I mean, just Hans's performance here.
I have a weird comparison with the end speech and great moments with Mr. Lincoln, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Anyways.
But I think I love like the awestruck kind of atmosphere here. So I mean, it gets a good punctuation. Just feels, I don't know, that I can't really place where else it would go though. So I mean, I can't really.
No, I hear you. The placement's a little bit weird. I hear you, but I mean, it's
like, little gripes. Nothing really that's going to kill the movie.
Yeah, I mean, Hansu's performance though is obviously just like heartbreaking. You feel the frustration. The frustration is palatable, man.
Yeah.
And also the frustration of the language barrier. The language barrier mixed with the situation, mixed with all the shit that he's been through. It's kind of like a culmination moment in Hansu's performance, And
the fact that the prosecution has used the language barrier to their advantage.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Like a part of me, I mean, look, I don't mean to belabor what I was going to say, and then we'll move on. It's like a part of me feels like give us free would have been good like after his testimony bombed if he just like then on the stand said give us free. I don't know, but
yeah, but then we wouldn't get that awesome British guy. So
you're right. That's what I'm saying though. We can't get Captain Fitzgerald though. We need Fitzgerald.
Yeah, we need Fitzgerald.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't know.
Maybe we could have Fitzgerald come in like right after that moment. I don't know. We're thinking too hard.
No, I think just the transition to what's actually going on, though. I think the actual significance of it was kind of like a big awe-striking moment that has also inspired the judge, who's making his big determination in a church. Again, he's kind of getting over his Catholic guilt while he's in the church, and we are now. This was always that's why I love this with the subtitles and everything too. Where if I read the scene correctly, it's that Yamba here, the guy from earlier who took the Bible. He is he's trying to learn to read it, and I think mostly he's getting the pictures out of it, and they're interpreting the pictures. I love the idea of interpreting the Bible through the imagery, and just kind of this likening of the slave's plight to the crucifixion of Christ. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not a really religious man,
Christ imagery with a nail, so
Yeah.
There is some interesting religious. I feel like this movie it's obviously not like an overtly religious movie, but I feel like it does kind of like tiptoe around some religious symbolism quite interestingly.
Yeah. Again, just the tragedy of like they think the afterlife would be like, it's like, hey, this is actually might not be so bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of saw that a little bit with the woman who throws herself overboard. Like we kind of see a little bit of a theme there.
Certainly, yeah. And again, there's a nice parallel just in the editing to the judge, making his decision to just kind of like things might actually turn out good with our judge here. Seemingly was in the pocket of Van Buren. just loves them trying to figure out what crime did this Jesus guy do? What was his crime?
Yeah, right,
Of course,
right.
I don't know if, mind you, I'm not a biblical scholar. I like the scope of I like the biblical nature of things. I'm not a religious man at all. But what I can tell you, if I recall right, is that Jesus is one of the words that kind of got him crucified was essentially he's wanted peace. He says, "I want us all to get along. I want peace," and that's what kind of
The
put him up.
Dragon, everything I know about the Bible, I pretty much learned from Jesus Christ Superstar, so I'm kind of with you there.
So that's what I'm saying. If I recall, like
Yeah.
the big thing that got him crucified is he wanted peace amongst the nation, amongst everybody, and they all didn't like that. So
Honestly, it's a little like according to Jesus Christ Superstar, it was more kind of like the fact that it was more than wanting peace. Like he was kind of like he was very much kind of like a freedom fighter, if you will. Like he was kind of going against the system in a way, if that makes sense.
Fair. I don't want to offend any of the uber religious folks and then watching this. Just let you know,
just to make an easy comparison, in Jesus Christ Superstar, it's always like the Romans are kind of like the system, right? Like the cops or whatever. They're always kind of like framed as like the police, and Jesus is kind of like going against them. It's a very kind of like I look at it as a counterculture sort of thing.
That's fair.
But like I said, literally everything I know about the Bible is from Jesus Christ Superstar.
So folks, neither of us are religious scholars. Just want to get that in there. Okay, most of the things. Again, I respect the scope of the Bible less than.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've got to pause right there. Dragon, you are like the most polite guy. I love how you just have to you literally have to pay respects to the Bible. I respect the scope of the Bible. Just say religious stuff, man. It's fine. People understand.
Yeah, I like the biblical nature. I know. I like this. Anyway. All right. Okay, let's see. So we are. So we're having the second verdict. Again, I really love this. I love the framing of every act has a verdict.
Every act has what? I'm sorry.
Has a verdict, as the verdict to the trial. Yeah, so we have Act One essentially
there's a lot of interesting kind of connective tissue between the three acts.
And of course, we have essentially this is like the big verdict that was supposed to count in Act Two. Act One was like a verdict that was in their favor, and this is supposed to be for all.
What I kind of like about this verdict is it's one of those moments in a movie where it's like, wait a minute, this can't be the end of the movie.
I know, I had that so much when I was watching. It was like, this is why can't this be the ending? This is happy. This is great. But I know in my guts, I know in my bones, this can't be the ending.
And you know what, Dragon? In some ways, if it weren't for that awesome speech at the end, I kind of wish this was the ending.
I know, right? Because it's like, again, had we not gotten more Hopkins, I would have been like, oh, why couldn't we?
Right, yeah.
Because you saw how happy Morgan Freeman was with Stones. You saw they were so giddy when they jumped up. Yes! It's like, that's where you want to end the movie.
McConaughey is literally jumping to his feet.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. I think our actor playing the judge, he's doing. I think he does a good job here. It's Jeremy Northam. I think I don't really recognize him.
I love the. I'm sorry, really quick. I love the shot of just the sails being kind of like this ominous sort of symbol as they're they're kind of being let off.
Yeah. Because again, whatever happens here, they're going to be going on a boat again, which I love it. Any way you slice it, they're going to be going on a boat at the end of this movie, which again could be going off to their doom or going off to home if they're lucky. So I'm at an hour and 42 minutes.
Okay, for some reason I'm like Dragon. I continually just get like 30 seconds behind you for some reason. I don't know. I'm sorry, you said what? An hour 42 minutes?
An hour 42 minutes, soon to be 30 seconds.
Hold on. Let me know when you're at 1:42:49.
Okay. A lot of verdict talk going on.
It's not going to help, but...
Ruiz and Montez getting theirs right now. This is fun. Of Guilfoyle just all up in arms, like I lost. Now,
okay. Dragon. At this point, we're just gonna kind of. I
I know,
don't
I know.
know.
We gotta guesstimate. I get
I
it.
don't know what the deal is. I don't know why, like, consistently through the last few calls, it's weirdly consistent. I always just get consistently 30 seconds behind.
Sometimes there's a time zone thing. Sometimes there's not. I don't get it. All right, so of course the fun, and this is what I'm talking about. When you watch a movie, it's like the final question of like, are they from Africa? And as an audience member, I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
very
no
clearly.
shit. Yeah, right, of course.
And again, I think it's just more of like at the time, like everyone needed convincing because everyone was so stubborn and so like set in the ways of this. The simple answer is, yeah, they're from a plantation somewhere local.
Uh-huh.
Whereas like, well, no, it didn't happen. Very clearly, I mean, they're very African. I think we've established this very. We could have established this on day one.
Dragon, well, we're still talking through verdict stuff. Let me do just a tiny bit of housekeeping. What are we watching Lincoln on? Remind me.
Like, really, you want to do this now?
Yes.
HBO Max.
Okay, good. So we'll both be watching it from the same source. So hopefully
yes.
that won't. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. That's all I wanted to know.
All right, at least it was Spielberg related.
right. Anyways.
Okay, so again, now of course Guilfoyle just got screwed out of the job, which is funny. I love that immediately. You know, these guys are going to be arrested by marshals, which again is very, very. Of course, I think we just now had the yes moment from.
Oh yeah, you're right. I jumped ahead a little bit. That's the big McConaughey moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love Giddy McConaughey, man.
I know, they're all so happy. It's so nice. And look at him just jumping out of the chair and everything, and they're having a good old time.
By the way, Dragon, I like that Matthew McConaughey has played Civil War lawyers like multiple times.
Yeah.
It's one of his go-tos, oddly enough.
Yeah, well, he's good at it.
Yeah.
I'll assume he's good. I've only seen this Civil War lawyer.
I know there's a Free State of Jones, which is like not nearly as good as this movie. I haven't heard great things about that. And then I don't know what I don't think he plays a Civil War lawyer, but there's also the Lincoln lawyer, which I don't know what that's even about. But
right here's the it's so weird. I always assume
it's kind of trippy that it's got the word Lincoln in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. I agree because it's so weird because I'm pretty sure Lincoln Lawyer is like just it's more like a modern setting and it's not.
It is. I'm gonna look up what the Lincoln Lawyer's about right now.
Yeah, we have kind of the nice, kind of the nods going on here between, between Baldwin and Cinque. Like, yeah, it worked, and we're all ridiculously happy. And again, roll credits. We're good here. Mm-hmm. We got 2 great scenes of Anthony Hopkins. I mean, I could have used more, but we're good. We got 2 solid scenes.
Oh, okay. The Lincoln Lawyer. It's his office is his car, which is a Lincoln.
Oh,
so he's a lawyer that works out of a Lincoln car. So it has nothing to do with Abraham Lincoln.
Well, that figures. But, yeah.
It's kind of a fun premise, though. I like the idea.
I know, right?
Matthew McConaughey being this, like, I might have to look into that.
I might as well.
Kind of sounds like vaguely Saul Goodman-esque.
I know.
Anyways,
okay, so again, I love that in our movie, like the hour 46-minute mark has passed. It's like we gotta go home happy, and then the rich people gather for dinner. So Calhoun's the guy who's just arrived here.
Calhoun, has rich people gathering for dinner in a movie resulted in anything good ever?
Oh, I mean, speaking of Batman Year One, it's like the rich have eaten well. We've eaten Gotham's well, but they never goes well. It's like, yeah, we got to set them in their place. Yep. So let me speak to something here. So the sad truth of the justice system is when challenging the powers that be or calling them out on fault or stepping on powerful toes, the sad truth of the matter is they will do everything in their power to see that you do not win.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sad fact of life, kids. And that's kind of what we're seeing all the way back then. It was true as it is today. So Calhoun, he's the guy who's just entered with the fancy hair. And he is he's the representation of the South here. Basically, the South is unhappy with the verdict, and he's basically kind of the devil on on Van Buren's shoulders, which again is going to make him go down in infamy for like siding with the South and everything, basically leading.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't want to say completely leading in the Civil War, but definitely kind of like pointing him in that
nudging
direction.
it along at the very least.
It's like I don't want to just say like a little poke, but it's like definitely there's like hey, it's that way. Yeah. Also, just to address this too, I mean, there is a bit of a liberty, but I think it's a fair liberty of, like the seeds of the Civil War being set 20 years earlier. But here's the thing: it's that it's not a problem that we're setting the path that they know that's coming. The problem is that we're calling it a civil war. It's like it's a little Nostradamus. We're calling a civil war.
I hear you. That's a little bit of a historical liberty.
It's like I don't mind, like just like we're heading in a direction of something like this, but I guess the idea of North and South could breed civil war. I guess in terms of like them naming it already, but like 20 years from now, though, I don't know. It's a little too on the nose, but I have no issue. I'm just saying for the history, the people saying there are inaccuracies here, I kind of get it.
For sure.
Yep. Oh boy, now Van Buren's going to do something really, really stupid here. Where he's going to I'm going to throw out that verdict. Yep.
Okay, Dragon, I'm sorry, really quick. I just went to close the tab that the Lincoln Lawyer summary was on. And just one more thing about that movie. It's not just a Lincoln that he works out of, it's a chauffeur-driven Lincoln. And I assume his driver is like his secretary.
You mean a chauffeur?
A chauffeur, yes. So I don't know. I just love that idea. Like I'm
very sold on Lincoln Lawyer myself right now. I got to be honest. I
don't want to distract from this.
The moment you said like the secretary is driving the chauffeur, if that's true, that's awesome.
Right.
I'm so sold on that premise. If that's the case,
it's funny because I've seen the name Lincoln Lawyer floating around forever. I just assumed it was like some sort of like he's defending some sort of Civil War document or something. Anyways.
Yeah, I really wish you'd bring this up when we do the Lincoln commentary because we're going to need all the help we're going to get there. But anyway. Okay, just circling back.
We should just both watch the Lincoln Lawyer before we do the Lincoln commentary just so we can have something to go to if we don't have anything else to talk about.
We'll see. If it's available, if it's available, I'll watch it beforehand. But anyway. Okay, so tap in here. So much as I love Stellan Skarsgård, he says something truly horrible in this scene. And I love how
it's not Skarsgård's fault.
No, I know. I'm just saying the character tap in. I'm just saying instead of saying tap in.
How dare you, Skarsgård?
That's what I'm saying. As much as I love his portrayal of the Tappan character, Tappan says something really horrible here about essentially the practical thought of, well, worst case scenario, the slaves go off and they die and they become martyrs, which would help our cause still. Mm-hmm. Which again is and just seeing again they're both really kind of at each other in this scene too of a man who kind of.
Basically, how Morgan Freeman just he almost just kind of freezes in that moment. He's like, "What did you really just say? What I think you just said?"
Like we were buddies, man. This whole movie. How can you do this to me?
I he just kind of gives him the death glare,
Yep, and then Tappan's still thinking he has the moral high ground here. Hey, be mindful of who you say those things to. Kind of a chilly moment in their friendship. It's almost like a toe the line, buddy. Toe the line.
Sure.
Okay, so this is some of McConaughey's. I think McConaughey's finest scene actually comes in the later scene during the low.
Oh, I agree.
But this getting there though, poor Baldwin. He has to deflate the victory.
I sympathize with him so much when it's it's just you tried so hard to do the right thing and it just didn't turn out, and you're trying to explain it and you're trying to still get these people's sympathy, but you understand why they're upset with you.
I love the idea so much that there is no word for should or meant in the Mende language.
That right there is another linchpin of this script for me.
Mm-hmm. It's the fact if you say you're going to do something, you do it. There is no should.
Yeah. In other words, do or do not. There is no try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In other words.
I was thinking about Yoda in a little hat.
Yimon Hansu is an actor I'm surprised hasn't been in Star Wars. Just throwing it out there.
That isn't... Wait, I'm trying to think if he ever did something for Clone Wars. I wonder.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It is a misstep. You're right.
Yeah, just throwing it out there. Hey, let's get him
Yeah.
for Mando or something.
Yeah, I wonder. My God, I wonder. Being a Liberty, can you imagine if they got him? They're getting so off track right now. Can you imagine?
We are.
Can you imagine him playing Hondo?
I don't know about that.
I'm throwing it out there as a thought, but I think you're right now.
I don't think he's over the top enough for Hondo. But
yeah, you're right. He doesn't have the salesmanship that Hondo does.
Exactly. I'd have to think about who I'd want as Hondo if it's not just Jim Cummings.
I'll tell you where I want. I'll tell you where I want Hansu. Then we're gonna get back on topics. Right now, it's a lot of sad stuff. I want Hansu for the Boba Fett show. For Book of Boba.
Yeah, I could totally see him fitting in there.
He'd be perfect for that. He could be like the Weequay. Imagine the Weequay guy played by Von Hansu.
All right, but back on track here. Back on track.
Okay, so back on track again. Like again, the idea here, he's I think symbolically shedding his clothes and angers the show.
Sure.
Like he's rejecting the lion kind of the mantle that he's taking because he's so upset, and he's just kind of he's going back to the savagery of the opening, of just basically just kind of.
What kind of place is this where you almost mean what you say, where laws almost work? How can you live like that? Again, the frustration is just so palatable. And you know what's fucked up, Dragons? I really feel like our legal system has not advanced that much from this point.
Oh, I could give you 5 examples off the top of my head.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
Boy, I mean, there are 2 in particular, but we're not going to go there. Yeah. And again, we have like some memorable shots. Again, with the cinematography, and again, a little bit of that Goya the painting style here, of just like the flames kind of illuminating the silhouettes. So this is great. So now we have the big letter scene. So we have Baldwin, as a Hail Mary. He's going to write the guy who says, "Hey, I'm Switzerland on this. I do not want to get involved. I'm not officially an abolitionist. I've never taken any sides." I mean, Quincy Adams has been very straightforward. He's the fair guy. He's never taken any sides. Because of that, is why he was an effective lawyer to an effective president. Quincy Adams, I know you're up on the case. We need your help because we're going to the Supreme Court. For those who may not be aware, the Supreme Court, the toughest court ever, because those guys, they only take so many cases. I want to say, I forget if it's like 2 a year or not, but it's like out of hundreds. It's like they take very few cases. You go to Supreme Court, and these are like the stiffest judges you will ever come across. Like they're the guys, they're going to question everything. They're going to make you feel as paranoid as all get out.
I knew that they were like the top court, but I didn't know that they were that exclusive, that it was only like a couple cases a year.
I know it's a couple. I'm saying that's how it is now. I don't know how it was back then. Maybe back then it was a lot more easy to get to them. But I'm saying nowadays, like at least since the 90s, maybe the 80s, it's been that way. Since the whole there's only so few cases and very tight-lipped about it, and they give you like a time limit. It's the major leagues of the lawyering game. So we have a really nice letter here, basically saying basically the whole movie boils down to Cinque and John Quincy Adams. I love how we kind of built them up separately throughout the film.
Totally.
Letter crumple, man. I'm just going gaga.
Lant being, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but that being the, the kind of the linchpin of Quincy Adams wanting to help, and it's all really good stuff. It's all like, I feel like Quincy Adams is like the best written character in the film as far as just his role in the story, where he comes in. It's all super effective.
Yeah, the African violet scene is my favorite symbol of the entire film. I love it so much. All right, so this is great. And this is where we're getting McConaughey's best part of the movie, I think. Where so McConaughey's like, so Cinque just refuses to talk to you. Says the translator's like, okay, that's it. I'm going down there. We're just hashing it out, and we have this wonderful scene where he's trying. This is gonna be a weird comparison. I'm just gonna go for it. It very much reminds me of the low of lows moment from the original Toy Story, Buzz and Woody. Buzz is very dejected. He just will not speak to Woody. And it's basically you have a character who's doing all the talking.
It's a weird comparison, like comparing. Oh God, comparing a slave to Mrs. Nesbit.
But it's just saying you have that setup, though.
It's apt. I hear what you're trying to say. It's just a funny comparison when you think of it in those regards.
Yeah, I'm seeing looking at McConaughey's energy here too, of just the whole like, see this is me, okay, the little voodoo doll. This is what people are sending me, and the death threats. And good news is, I have no clients, which means I will have nothing to do but sit here until you acknowledge me. Yeah, it's a great scene. Again, you should just have that one person doing all the talking, just trying to sway. Again, it's a good exercise for the actor in terms of kind of like the monologue of like, you have to try and sway this person with your acting.
Sure.
And just seeing Cinque so just kind of dejected. I just love he's kind of keeping all the cards to his vest here. I love how you kind of the dancing personality in the eyes of like, this guy's silly. I know he's kind of slowly forgiving him, I think, in the scene.
Uh-huh. I mean, you have to. I feel like on some level he doesn't ever like inherently blame McConaughey.
No, yeah,
it's just palatable frustration.
Yeah, and he's kind of the symbol of that frustration.
Exactly.
He's my only hope, and he's as helpless as I am right now. Which again,
right.
Enter Mr. Quincy Adams. I love the correction of Caesar, not Claudius. It's great. It feels like something Anthony Hopkins would say to anyone, honestly, if they wrote him an inaccuracy in a letter, just kind of call it out all charmingly like that.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Hopkins is just cool like that, man. Hopkins just rocks. I know it's an oversimplification. Water is wet. Anthony Hopkins is good at what he does, but he is.
I still just to kind of bring it into current times, I still think his acceptance thing with when he won the Oscar was just classy as fuck.
Yeah, it was.
It really was, man. And anybody who criticizes him winning that Oscar just needs to watch The Father before they fucking say anything.
That they do. I mean, honestly, look at him at the end of this movie and at the end of The Father, and you'll understand why he won that Oscar.
Exactly.
You will. Right. I mean, yes, give him...
Very good point. Very good side-by-side comparison. Oh, man.
I mean, tell me I'm wrong. I mean, look,
no,
I am saying
there is on point.
There's a detail, T. Here's a fun fact I've been saving for that speech. I'm going to tell you, and you're just going to knock your socks off. We're going to get there.
Okay.
Okay, so here, this is a fun runner, too. It's going to get us one of my favorite interactions in the movie here. We're going to have James Covey here, Ejiofor, basically play messenger to Quincy Adams here, and it's just going to keep bothering him and pestering him. Like, just asking these questions aren't really necessarily... Quincy Adams had already thought these through. It's not really helpful. It's just like,
right.
It's like, come on, let's cut out the middleman. Let's cut out the intermediary already. Just bring him to me. I got some clout. Bring him to me.
One of my favorite interactions, I'm kind of jumping ahead, is when we see the respect that Cinque has for John Quincy Adams. The chief moment.
It's wonderful. And also set up earlier where we have like the explanation of what a judge is to a chief. So
and of course I love the line, like, basically when he says like a chief will always be chief, I'm paraphrasing that, but
and I just love it's such lovely because that's exactly what Quincy Adams needs to hear, because everyone's always down on him saying,
exactly.
Even though they all look the same, but let's be honest, practically everyone in the old times looked the same, like the white Cyburn look. But it's like, let's be honest. Every time we look at the
that's one of the good things that Hamilton did was actually kind of distinguish their personalities a little.
Yeah, because I mean, if you ever look at something like, I know it's like another weird comparison. Look at something like Around the World in 80 Days. All the old men in Parliament look exactly the same, or like in the scientific society.
That is a weird comparison, but I hear what you're saying.
Like every time we go back to that time frame, or we go to, especially if we go to London. Every time we go to London, let's just say in general, it's always every time we go to Parchment, it's either wigs or like sideburns and the. Anyway. But what I'm saying is, like, this is exactly what he needs, because they're saying, even though they all look the same, like, what's Grandpa doing here? He's just sleeping in the thing. He's very outdated. His father was better than him. Like, the father's the one we should be kowtowing to, not this guy. Only served one term. Reagan's like, where do you young punks get off? Young in quotes, by the way, but where do you get off? Okay, so this, oh my God, such a lovely scene where, like, remove the chains. Or unshackle him, please. And
Hopkins, man, he does go through a great arc in this movie of kind of like, just sort of like getting his self-respect back. You know what I mean? And kind of like just sort of like reclaiming the former glory that he had as a president, like kind of stepping back into the limelight for a good purpose, if that makes sense.
And just to get into like the third act role of Quincy Adams again, I want to say I love how, still remaining neutral for the most part here, he chooses to get involved because Baldwin won fair and square twice. He won and he proved his case, but the laws and the courts that again Adams feels very passionate about, they're not playing fair, and he's got to set that straight. That's why he gets involved, not for like, I've changed my mind. But no, it's like, I mean, maybe he has been swayed on some level, which I mean, I think that comes through in the power of the speech and just meeting Cinque. But I think I just love that the principles are there. The man's always had. And again, so the African violet. So my favorite thing about the payoff of the botanical kind of garden, little kind of greenhouse he has built into his house here, is it's international. There are flowers from every lands all over. And Cinque, like a guest, and of course the most valuable and the most kind of like the most rare of flowers, because it comes all the way from Africa, is the African violet. And it's such a rare moment of, I've invited an African into my house, an African man into my house to see the African violet. It's a beautiful moment.
Yeah, it's a great kind of like bridging the gap. And do you know if there's any historical accuracy in the flower collection?
I mean,
I assume there is.
I assume there is too. I don't know how international the collection is, but I imagine like somewhere it's noted that Quincy Adams was like.
It seems like the type of detail that would have to be true, right? It's so specific.
I would assume like, okay, yeah, so Quincy Adams is really in the botany, and that would be represented somewhere. At the very least, I think that's at the very least. He probably did. If I'm betting here, I'm saying he probably did have like a little room in his house for the botanical stuff. Maybe that's accurate as well. So this is a great scene as well. I mean, basically, Hopkins is on fire through Act 3 here, obviously.
Oh, he is. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Dragon, I love Hopkins, but this is truly like I would put this in probably my top 5 of Hopkins performances for me personally.
It is great. I'm a sucker for
Hopkins. What I like about it, like you saying that the only research he did was the one photo, just kind of like puts it over the edge as far as like. He comes up with this whole voice, this whole mannerism, like it's a fully fleshed out character. It isn't just Hopkins just kind of like being grandfatherly and just kind of putting on his own persona. It's like, it is a complete character that he just kind of like evolves into, Yeah.
I mean, again, he knows a work by reading. Again, he knows everything he needs to know about a movie by reading it 200 times. Everything he needs to know about.
I don't even know how you could fucking find the time to read something 200 times if you don't even know if you're going to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure he reads it before he agrees to take the role. He reads the script, then he takes the role.
That is fucking commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And Dragon, just to remind me, you don't know the actor who was in the stage version of the father?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
Well, you told me not to look it up, so I haven't looked it up.
Keep it that way. Anyways, all right.
You don't have to tell me twice. I got it. So again, I love how very honest and direct he is with Cinque here, and I love he kind of waves off the translator for a bit there, so they kind of get the whole thing out there of like, look. And I love Cinque's moment. It's such a cheeky Spielberg moment, and I love it so much. Where Ejiofor plays this moment so perfectly, where Cinque asks him, "Is he going to help me, or just keep asking more questions?" Well, what did he say? I didn't quite catch it because he doesn't want to tell Quincy Adams that.
Right. But also, by the same token, though, I love how Hopkins, like, he can tell that whatever it was some sort of sarcastic statement, and he's like, "No, look, like, we got to zero in here. Like, I'm being dead serious with you." Exactly.
Just this whole thing of like, okay, look, I'm just gonna be straight with you here. We gotta. This is the big ball game here. This is going to be the highest court in the land. I can't guarantee we're going to win, but you and I have the best chance of doing this. Like, telling you anything less would be disrespectful. From all information, no shoulds or anything, but just I'm telling you, I'm preparing you all that. And what was really nice, and this is the big bonding moment, that I love how this inspires Quincy Adams' speech in a big way. This really, again, when he says, like, I use your words, it's not fabrication. It's utterly based on the whole the ancestral bond idea, which will very much lead to Hopkins' kind of shining moment.
I love the sentiment of we're not going at it alone.
Yeah. and we enter with kind of our fathers and our forefathers and everything. Essentially, we're calling into the past. Again, very much takes me. I don't want to go for the cheap Black Panther comparison, but I'm gonna go for it. It's
Greg, we've got so many MCU players. I'm honestly surprised that Black Panther hasn't come up more often in this conversation.
We got Odin, and we got Korath, who also has played Black Panther technically. So
right, exactly.
It very much takes me to the ancestral plane idea. Of course, like all the kings of the land, and like all the very much we respect the kings that came before us. In this case, how it's going to relate to Hopkins, it's all the presidents that came before him. We're going to epitomize that so well visually, and we'll get there. Hey, look at this linger, man. There's some sweet linger going on here. Just like seeing him really take that to heart.
That sweet Spielberg linger.
We go from the linger to this excellent reveal of the Supreme Court. A bunch of sour faces. We then reveal there's so many of, because there are so many Supreme Court. I think now it's like 5, though. I think now it's like 5, maybe 6 at the most. I think it's what they've whittled it down to. But I didn't know. I had no idea it was this massive back then. It's like my guy's like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
They all just look like they're like Spielberg probably literally directed all those people. Just all right, guys, just have the most miserable looks on your faces that you possibly can.
That's accurate to the Supreme Court, though. They're all okay. So we have Anthony Hopkins' shining moment in the film. This is like an Oscar-winning moment here. So let me tell you. Okay, so the real speech was in real life. The real speech was lengthier, not as cinematic at all. Is in that I'm pretty sure they made up the. I'm pretty sure they created like an original speech here based on the end point. Like, okay, so we know where it leads to, but everything else we're kind of making up.
Essentially, the speech. Essentially, the speech is like a thesis statement of the real speach.
Yeah. Pretty much. Like this is the zhuzhed up version of the long, boring speech that somehow worked. Where now what we do here so wonderfully, and this is where I'm gonna hopefully get you a little gobsmacked here, as everyone else was.
Okay, I'm ready.
Anthony Hopkins. This is what we have here, even shorter than the actual real life lengthy speech. What we have here, wonderfully, is 7 pages of dialogue. Okay, 7 pages, all dialogue. One of the most lengthy monologues I've ever heard of. He did it all in one take.
Oh my God. That is mind-blowing.
Spielberg, everyone, they were utterly gobsmacked. And Spielberg insisted everyone call.
This whole thing is just like the only fucking recording of this monologue that exists.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure they stuck with the one take. Yeah.
That is incredible.
The whole day on set, and this is conjecture, mind this part of it, that I'm pretty sure I heard Spielberg made everyone on set call him Sir Anthony this day.
Totally.
Because again, he is a Sir. It's Sir Anthony Hopkins. So, like, folks, he earned the Sir today, man. Look at this.
Right.
But that's amazing, right?
This speech, very much, I don't say this in any sort of a derogatory way at all. This is one of my all-time favorite Disney attractions. This speech very much has a great moments with Mr. Lincoln quality to it for me. As far as it's just a fucking, like, it's a powerful statement, man. And it's just a powerful statement done in a compelling way. And, as a climax to a Spielberg movie, I kind of like that the climax is basically just a speech in words. I don't know. There's a lot about it that really just kind of like works for me. But, as far as the great moments with Mr. Lincoln of it all, it really is just kind of like the fact that, we're just kind of like laying out, like, because basically what great moments with Mr. Lincoln is it kind of like takes some of the more memorable pieces of a few of Lincoln's speeches and kind of like cobbles them together into one speech. And this feels kind of similar in the way that, it's written on the basis of like you said, it's kind of like the thesis of the real speech. So I don't know, the way that it's kind of like edited, it very much does give that kind of like Mr. Lincoln sort of like oomph to it for me.
I love just the classy lines, like an 11-year-old girl plays, treats the courts in her magical kingdom called Spain. So again, what I love so much about this whole speech is, again, he's so humble, and so it's so humble and casual with the content of the speech, and he knows, he addresses at the top. Baldwin's already made all the points. Okay, the case is already won, and it's won, and he's basically finessing them into accepting that. That's what this whole thing's about. All he has to do is just convince them to hear it and just like approve it, which again just convince all the sourpusses in the room to like, no, we don't like the way things usually are. We're like, yeah, we're going to go for it. He swayed us with this wonderful speech. In that, justice does not, basically what the whole Queen of Spain thing is, that Justice does not have an owner, like an 11-year-old girl playing with a dollhouse. And of course, it's the fact that justice does not have ownership, very much, kind of conflating to, slavery. Should not have, slave Africans should not have owners.
Sure.
They shouldn't. And again, I just love the little bits of humanity that we give him, these little bits of humanity where he's like reading, kind of like scoffing at like the quotes of other people. Like, could it be like that? Those little bits where it feels so much like he's just speaking from the heart versus like a rehearsed speech, which maybe it is rehearsed. I mean, obviously the actor, whereas I'm saying the character, like maybe John Quincy Adams, I think he's just speaking from the heart because he's doing it so well.
I really do. That's the vibe I get. At least that's how the scene kind of like reads to me.
I mean, he's prepared by knowing like the things he's going to like read from. That's as far as the preparation.
Right. He's probably got like a list of bullet points in his head.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that basically as the speech goes on, I just love that it keeps getting better and better, and it gets to like an emotional crescendo for him personally by the end of it. But as we go from, okay, he's making the points about the Queen of Spain to kind of take her down. Then he gets to the point of Cinque is the hero of the story, which I'm going to say this. I hate it when sometimes people misrepresent the whole white savior idea and the whole trope of the white savior. And I got to tell you, there's a line in this movie is the best I've ever heard the white savior thing brought up naturally with an actual point. Mm-hmm. It's such a clever point that if Cinque were a white man, basically if it were a white man that liberated the slaves, we would have given him medals. The British would have weighed him down medals. Sure. That's the best That's the best phrasing I've ever heard of the white savior trope ever in a movie, to me personally. At least I can call it a mind.
I mean, you're right. It's a complicated situation, Dragon. It's a complicated issue, and I do see both sides of it in certain ways. But yeah, I hear you.
Again, I don't want to weigh it down. So I mean, like I've said, like Red Sea Diving Resort, where historically, the white man did help out very, very bigly. So it can't be really a white savior versus we just kind of throw it around casually sometimes.
Whereas I feel like something like The Last Samurai, for example, like I feel like the wording of that title is just very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Sure.
All right.
So of course, the idea here of him being the best of his, being the best of our fathers. Idea here of being his. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I love the bust of his father in the scene. That's about to kind of punctuate things as he kind of keeps going back and forth in the scene as he's walking around here. He's kind of owning the room. So I keep forgetting when he's about to get to the bust. Because right now he's going to the Declaration of Independence, but he's going to go back. But by the time he gets to the bust of his father, he basically kind of goes through sort of that ancestral plane idea of, again, like the kings that have come before us and the men who've come before us, our forefathers. We go to the presidents. And I love that basically looking back, it's like assuming like look at how few busts there are in that room, Teague. Just showing you how early on we are.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love as we go back, he goes to the second president, which of course is his father, John Adams. And I love that as he's just giving
this. The thing about John Adams is that Hamilton just shits all over the guy.
I know, right? I remember that. Like, oh man, but yeah, it's just we
phrase 1776, honestly.
Yeah, but I just love the idea of like this kind of nice, warm and fuzzy portrayal of John Adams. That John Adams helped birth America. He was there when it was being built. He was there. And I just love this idea of John Quincy Adams, who early on, like our bad guys said, they said the only thing that's going to be remembered from John Quincy Adams is his middle name, which I love how kind of apt that is, and that it is going to be the big delineation for him, Quincy Adams. Like, it's going to make him stick out from his father, but there's power in names sometimes, and it's going to distinguish him.
But full name and not an initial.
Yeah, exactly. So you give him the respect of saying the full name.
Right, exactly.
Like not John Q. Public or anything. It's John Quincy freaking Adams.
W. Bush.
Well, you're right. That's actually the better. But no, seriously, as he's walking over the bus right now, I just love this. The idea he's getting caught up in what Cinque said earlier about your ancestors enter the room with you, and he's been kind of skirting the issue the whole movie about living up to his father. And he's now confronting his father in this scene. And I think the emotion. Anthony Hopkins has this thing he does in the movie. He did in Red Dragon. I always thought it was so wonderful. He can tear up on cue. And I know it's like I know a lot of actors do.
Father.
And you're right, and the father. I'm just going back to when I first saw it, but if you look, that's what I'm saying. He can get so impassioned, you can kind of see him welling up right now in the scene if you look close enough, and you can
Sure.
see him like think. I imagine he's thinking of his father right now, and just like basically he's realizing he's having catharsis in his closing statement. You know, he's going from the argument to catharsis in the revelation. That's what I'm saying. This is why I love what Hopkins.
I feel like what makes the speech work so well is that it's not just a historical figure coming in at the 11th hour to save the day. It's a character that we've been following in the narrative since Act 1. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They put the time in to actually make us invested in this guy first and foremost, and that to me is a Spielbergian touch.
Exactly, and the whole we are, who we are is who we were. That idea. That's really we take. I feel
like John Quincy Adams very much could have just been a Deus Ex Machina on this story under less skilled hands.
And again, he is not like art. Again, he's not like swaying anyone from facts that are not in evidence that we have not seen throughout the entire film. It's a reminder of guys, which wake up and listen to this.
Right, totally.
And again, the old man who everyone's like, oh, he's sleeping in the thing. Look at what he's doing.
Fucking like point A to point B storytelling there, man. It's really good character work.
Yeah, just the wonderful eccentricities of the old man. A little detail I completely forgot about early on because now we're basically waiting for the verdict. I love remember that when he's going down the stairs. And by the way, his physical acting is really good in that scene too, playing a lot older than he was. But I love the he finds with his cane, he finds like a little coin on the staircase and he's like flicking it.
Right.
It's like a little detail. It's like an old man being eccentric. Like,
I'm glad you bring up the physicality, Dragon, because you're right. It's like I feel like in this movie he's playing close to the same age that his character in The Father is.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, maybe like 10 years younger than the father, but yeah.
No, but it's like it's kind of like in that it's more in that ballpark than he actually was.
No, you're right. Life. Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very much a man in the twilight of his life.
Certainly. Okay, I'm going to have to deflate things a little bit here.
Oh boy!
So let me tell you,
the movie should have just ended right after the speech.
I mean,
it really should have just been speech, historical text, credits.
I will admit, though, I think the last image of the film with the text on the screen is bittersweet, but it is powerful, though.
But we could have had that last image cutting from the speech to the historical text. You know?
Sure. I mean, you know what? That's fair. I mean, if we would have to change up the glimpses we got, but you're right. We could have done that.
It wouldn't have taken that much work, Dragon. I'm just saying, like, for a movie where pacing is already like kind of an issue, this does not help. This really, like, it's a movie with it almost feels like a movie with 3 endings, you know?
I mean, what we need to do is after we have the moment with Cynthia, saying goodbye to everybody, then we should have transitioned to the sail home. That's probably
right.
Now let me say this. Here's the sad real life thing. This is what I meant by deflating things. So sadly in real life, apparently, the court in their ruling here, the only inaccuracy was that they didn't offer passage back to Africa because, in kind of the legalese of it all, is that they're declared free in the U.S., which means we can't send them back to Africa. So they eventually, I'm pretty sure they did go back to Africa. I'm saying it wasn't like, hey, we'll send you there too if you want.
Right.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
I feel like the return back to Africa as a whole is kind of bittersweet. So I don't feel like that's that much of a stretch.
Sure. Now, also, just for the fact of it all, apparently the case, again, as encapsulating as it is here, was not the huge turning point, like a capital V, turning point that it should have been. It should have been, but, it wasn't. I don't have no compunction with doing that in the movie because, again, it feels like this actually is. Again, it was an unknown story in history, though. That's the point.
Sure.
So, doing and representing it here is like it should be this way.
How many people talk about John Quincy Adams as a president? It is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just generally speaking, it's not the most documented time in history.
Yeah. So, the good news in the verdict is the Africans have found a loophole into freedom, that's like a 1,000,000 to 1 shot you never see happen at this time before. We have emancipation fully going on. It's like, oh my God, they found through the Supreme Court, they found a way to freedom. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, these goodbyes here are really nice too. Just the whole like what word. I just love the fact that um, that Cinque did not hear a word of that speech. He said, "What did you say to make him let us go?" Says, I used what words did you say? I used your words." And it's like, that's so classy, man. So humble and classy from Quincy Adams.
Sure.
We have given the tooth for safety to to Morgan Freeman's character, and we have, of course, a little thank you to Baldwin here, which again is like the handshake finally kind of determined here.
The handshake's a nice runner.
It is. And him extending the hand first too is really he extends the handshake, then we bring it in.
Yeah, totally. Again, a lot of solid character work and character arcs in this thing. I really think that's one of the film's strengths.
And the only other line in English he says in the whole movie, "Thank you, Baldwin." Thank you, Baldwin, and get us free.
Yeah, I mean, and goddamn, I feel like we almost haven't talked enough about how impressive that is from Jaimon Hansu. Just that he conveys like a ton of emotion in this movie, with like barely speaking a lick of English at all.
And also he had to learn Mendi. He didn't. He's from West Africa, but he had to learn Mendi for this. I believe he knows Mende and French, but I assume he knows French given his years in Paris, but I don't.
I mean, it's a super impressive. I really do feel like it's the most impressed I've ever been with him as an actor.
It is quite wonderful. So now, again, justice. This is again Fitzgerald coming in for the save here. We're crushing the slave fortress. We're blowing up Jaws, so to speak.
Oh, I forgot it was Fitzgerald that was involved in that.
Yeah, he has the cocky moment later on. Like, hey, I want you to contact Forsyth and tell him he's right.
Yeah, for sure.
This base doesn't exist because he blew
I
it
will
up.
admit that the base getting destroyed is a great kind of cathartic Spielbergian moment, for sure.
I don't necessarily mind the wrap-up, Tiki. It's just, I get your point, though. I don't necessarily mind it for, like, these little cathartic
It just feels like that speech is such a Kevin Smith cut-to-credits moment.
It is. You're right. It is. And again, also, I'm going to highlight another Hopkins performance that does something similar in terms of, like, not the best. At least I don't think critics hated the movie. Critics hated the movie. I liked it for the simplicity of it all. It's Meet Joe Black. Meet Joe Black ends with Hopkins giving an epic speech about life, and it's wonderful. And it's it's a perfect speech for us. I'm saying if we end movies with Hopkins with speeches, and they usually work out well. Usually, those speeches.
The father.
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
Oh man, I think the harp's a bit much though.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, and yeah, you're right. Absolutely, it is super bittersweet that we end with our lead just never being reunited with his wife, and and his wife like very, very likely meeting a worse fate than he did.
Yeah, just I love, on one hand, I do love that we bookend our story. We bookend our story in two ways if you think about it. Okay, one, we start and end on a boat, which I think was a really good idea. I love that idea. But by the same token, we've returned after all. He's returned after all that to find out his own people are in civil war, and his family have likely gone and sold, or gone and likely been sold into slavery, and God knows if they had the willpower or if they jumped ship. I mean, who knows? And just ending on that him looking off into the distance with that tear dropping down his face, with just that bittersweet acknowledgement of like, and he never got back to his family. Just utterly tragic. Basically, what I'm saying is like we bookended in tragedy as well, like a man without his family to a man sailing back home still without his family.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, he went through hell in this movie, and not for a lot of payoff beyond, I don't want to discount how meaningful his freedom is, of course, but still, it's a very bittersweet payoff.
Unequivocally, yes. I mean, but again, it's a gutsy way to end the movie, and again, it's ending the movie with again historical facts. It seems, it's just history ain't pretty, folks. Let alone for the the plight of the slaves. Slaves usually it's not a happy ending until
the understatement of the century.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, yes, it's an understatement. Doesn't mean it's not true.
All right. Are we at credits?
We're about to 1 second.
Okay, because I kind of just like
Yeah.
stopped trying to sync up at this point.
Yep, I figured. And I guess that's, oh my god, he's doing that single teardrop, man. I don't know how he does it, but I mean, Maguire obviously took some lessons
uh.
from a pro. And yeah, we're sailing off in credits. Yeah.
So Dragon, I don't really want to talk through all the credits, so let's.
Oh, of course. Now, I'm just saying, let's just wrap it up. So, what do you start us off?
Yeah. I mean, final thoughts. I really do think this is a gem. I really do. It's. I feel like the biggest problem it has is probably the pacing, just because I feel like the structure of it is a little bit weird. But I mean, it's got a lot more good going for it than it does, just minor little pacing nitpicks that I can kind of pick apart. Most importantly, it's got a terrific cast, and beyond the terrific cast, I feel like pretty much every character in this thing is like very potent and well realized, and feels very realistic, and you get their arcs, and it's a very satisfying Spielberg movie in that way. Like it's not the most compelling thing that Spielberg's ever done. It's not the most edge of your seat thing that Spielberg's ever done, but it's a very underrated little entry in his filmography. I feel like obviously, like we have Schindler's List and Jurassic Park before this, and then we have the big Saving Private Ryan after this. I feel like Saving Private Ryan very much overshadows this big time, and so I really do hope that this gets more attention, because it is very much one of the most one of the best put together movies about slavery I've seen, I think.
Yeah, final thoughts for me. This is a very solid film. My God, it's very solid. I think it's a lost gem as far as Spielberg's historical works go. Like Always is like the ultimate gem in terms of just completely kind of lost in, it's
I would wager to say this is a better movie than Always.
No, you're right about that, Tiki.
Yeah, like Always is a gem for sure, in terms of like no one ever talks about it. Like no one even really knows what Always is.
I'm just saying that one's like truly lost to the ages. This one is the lost historical equivalent to that. Yeah, this is like as lost, but more in the I guess the more critically, But yeah, it's seriously, this is it's a lost gem. No one ever talks about Amistad, like ever. And that's it's seeing how good the movie is. Having finally watched, it's like, oh my god, how is that possible? Look what Hopkins did in this movie. Look what Hansu did.
Like with the cast, it's like we got McConaughey, man. It's like I'm honestly surprised this didn't get like a resurgent during the McConaissance.
Yeah, I'm surprised by it myself too. And of course, Hopkins, he's absolutely wonderful. Again, I wish the only hesitation I have, I wish we could somehow shorten things in Act One a little bit. But that's the worst thing I can say about the movie. Everything else is just, it's so compelling. It's so, I mean, it's hard to watch, but hard to watch because it's so effectively done. And in that middle Act Two segment, again, kind of our Schindler's List segment, it's again, Amistad, they don't. Tiki's, frankly, they don't make them like that anymore. Amistad is I think deep down, like with something you brought up, 12 Years a Slave again, I think we're kind of trying to capture some Amistad magic. And of course, a little bit, 12 Years a Slave got a little bit more kind of award attention than Amistad, but it's a shame because this really had something. This is something really special.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in tonight, and stay tuned until next time in this historic season of Spielberg Month. Do 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 do.